All right, Mr. Static. It's good to finally have you on. I
Alrighty.
probably don't need an introduction for you because I've been using your clips for a hot minute now. And but I put your face and logo next to it when I steal your shit. But
Thank you.
yeah,
Most people
the
don't.
right. You are like one-stop shopping for everything ancient technology, but the way you tie it in to our place in the universe and the human condition is something that I think far surpasses what anybody is doing in content creation. But that's kind of the point is you're not, I don't see you as a content creator. I see you as like a mad scientist who happens to talk about his shit on the internet because
I,
I'm grateful to guys like you because my job is rhetoric. I love talking shit, and I'll read the books. I got yours, and I'll bring it to the audience. But you're getting your hands dirty. You're like toying with machinery, cymatics, making schematics, charts, mapping this shit out for the rest of us to be able to communicate. But you do a fine job communicating them on your own. This is why I gotta steal your shit. But I've been trying to get you on the show forever now, and people in the comments every time they see you, they're like, "Dude, get him on." I'm like, if I can get him away from what he's doing for 5 minutes, I got him.
that's the problem. That's the problem.
Tell me a little bit, if you would, what was a catalyst for you? I'm thinking it was frequency and sound because you're a musician. So, what got you into realizing that reality can be decoded and ancient civilizations knew about it?
Oh, man, that's a kind of complex question, but it was 2020 actually. So I wasn't always into this. I did my previous job was high-rise window cleaning. So I hung out in buildings all day and I cleaned windows. During that time, I had a lot of time
I'm a
to
glazer.
no shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where my construction and stuff knowledge comes from is all that. So
Nice.
I was hanging off of buildings and I just had all this time to read books, like audiobooks. So I was just cruising through. Like I was always into, weird stuff, conspiracy, esoteric stuff, but I got into like Manly P. Hall and some of the Rosicrucian Freemason stuff, and I was like, what the hell? And I didn't know how to read it, like it was very cryptic, and so when the world crashed in 2020, I just had all this free time, and I was already into that stuff. So I started looking into. I just had a conversation with one of my buddies, and he was like, we still don't know how the pyramids were built. And I was like, bullshit. This is this is 2020. We know that.
Right.
And I was trying to prove him wrong, and I couldn't do it. And like it was the first time in my life when I had encountered something like that, because I consider myself a pretty smart dude. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know how to explain this. I got to look into this even more. So rabbit hole took my life for like 2 weeks of just like going down this path, and stuff kept coming up of like, not just the Egyptians, but like, in America and all the places where these weird things are. And I was like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah.
And so my degree is in computer engineering, which means how to build the hardware of computers. And so it had a hardware component and a software component. So I had a little bit of mix of both. I had my construction background, I had this engineering background, I had all this stuff going on. And when I started looking at these things, it was like the things that I was seeing there made sense in the engineering stuff that I was already studying. It looked similar, right? They looked like, computer chips. And so I'd been to a couple of these places just for shits and giggles before I was even into all this. Like I've been to Mexico like 4 times. I've been to Petra. I've been to Middle East 3 times now. So I've been to a lot of these places, and like when I was looking into it, something was off, like I always thought history was cool, but I was walking through them and I was like looking around and something just did not seem right. And so when I was during 2020, I had nothing to do, and I was always into music. I play guitar, I play drums, I played instruments throughout my life. And in Austin, I got into EDM just because it worked with my programmer mind.
Right.
And the level of like control and detail that you have with electronic music production is very scientific. Like
Right.
you can produce tones that are very precise, and like
Right.
seeing them visualized is very precise. And so
Right.
when I was fucking around with that, I was like, where have I seen these before? And so
Yeah.
I was making a lot of these shapes and symbols with sound, and I was like, all right, all of this is converging. I need to do
Right.
something with this. And so I was making zero money, and I just started posting on TikTok. And TikTok actually saved me. They had a creativity program, and they were like overpaying for instructional videos, like informational videos. And
Yeah.
so I just kept making those videos on like music production and sound, and then
Right.
they started to do really well, and I started tying in the ancient stuff with it, and they started to do even better. And so
Yeah.
that kind of just like diverted my career path into this. And so I took
Right.
a little break from music to grow the channels, and now here we are.
Right. Well, that's a perfect example of a couple things. Is that engineers look at pyramids and they see what Egyptologists don't. I should rephrase. They see what Egyptologists cannot
Can't
see.
see.
And
Can't see.
right. And so, as a sound engineer, and you recognize the code of music in architecture, this is irrefutable. And there's no scholar or historian on earth who's going to be able to argue with you, which they do. And like, even a barbaric example was I had to do a glass door at the post office in St. Louis, which the St. Louis post office, dude, is an old world cathedral,
I've
bro.
seen it. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing
Insane.
is made out of fucking marble granite. And the
Mhm.
closer I was putting into the ground was about 3 inches by 4 inches. And I was using a jackhammer. And it took fucking all day
Forever.
and half of the next day to get through that granite. And
Yeah.
it's at a certain point, you're like, okay, even if you get rid of the geometry and mathematics, this is
Mhm.
not possible for somebody holding
With a
a
chisel.
copper chisel, right? And then guys like you come along and you're like, well, you notice that there's a phi ratio embedded, and if the earth is a sphere, which
Mhm.
thank you for that, by the way, clearing that up, then
Thank
it
you.
becomes like the way that it refracts, the way a prism refracts light, the pyramid does with energy.
Yeah.
And it blows my head off that that we are not only ignoring this, but this is something that could fundamentally change our technology and our world for the better if people who are not scholars, Egyptologists, and historians could pass the buck, pass the torch to a guy like you who can decode not only what it means and how it works, but possibly in the future help engineer things that are going to make our world better. Because obviously they had something going on that is not only forgotten but like forbidden
Yeah.
now.
Well, that's why I take the position I do. Like I don't use my degree. I don't use anything. Like I don't want to be part of that establishment. I don't want to
Right.
be associated with any academic thing. I'll go toe to toe with you every day. Like we can have a
Right.
convo, and I'll be just as cool with you as someone who's a professor in a university. I don't
Right.
care who it is that I'm talking to, but don't put a title on me. I have a
Right.
bachelor's in engineering, but I'm not going to put it in my title. Just
Right.
call me the music producer, and we'll have
Right.
a conversation as real humans, because I can argue this stuff with you the same way another person in your faculty will argue it with you. So
Right.
don't give me this thing where we need to all have like this. The establishment makes it that way, to be
Right.
licensed or to have a degree. That's the only way you can talk. No, it's not. That's not how it is at all. And I'm proof of that. I'll post the same thing. No one argues with me from like established. Like I don't get archaeologists commenting on my shit. I don't get any professors commenting on my shit. They don't want to touch it. Not because I'm good at talking. It's just because they don't treat me the same. They don't treat
Yeah.
me as an equal, and I'm fine with that. You guys have your space over there. I've got my space over here that I've built from the ground up, and people are
Right.
clearly resonating with it. So
Right.
let's have a conversation when that space is ready to talk about what we're talking about. They will be forced to come and talk to us. I'm not
Yeah.
worried about confronting them. I've seen Graham
Right.
Hancock and Randall, and they're friends of mine. Like I talk to them, and I see them getting really upset that no one's taking them seriously. And I've told everybody in the space, like, you don't worry about them taking you seriously. We're in the age of information. Don't worry about that.
It's a good point, because everything in academia is compartmentalized. If you work with geometry, you're a mathematician, you're over here. And if you work with history, you're over here. And the two aren't allowed to bleed together. But meanwhile, they are quite literally under the same umbrella. Kind of like human senses. The only difference between these subjects is the categories that we have created and placed upon them. And inadvertently, you've kind of caused me to realize through cymatics, frequency, and light, color, all these things, that it seems that not matter, but reality itself is all made of one primordial substance. The difference between light and sound is eyes and ears. That's what makes something light or sound, is how we perceive it. So technically we have 5 senses, which are all compartmentalized, just like science is. But if we come outside of these 5 senses, we notice that incoming information was actually one thing divided up by our brains. This is the way anything that we study should be treated. There's an overarching cause and effect happening here that's being ignored because of these degrees. And for that matter, we're living in a world now where we just discovered that all of our school textbooks were written by satanic pedophiles. So all of these, what you would call occult symbolism or esoteric theories or even conspiracies, right? They were always weighed against the mainstream narrative. But now the mainstream narrative is being removed from the table. Yeah. So we need people without those degrees, or in your case, with the degree, who doesn't let it hold them hostage, to bring a fresh perspective to all of these things. And also, being in construction, you'll know that sometimes the apprentice coming on the job site will fucking see something that nobody even thought of.
Yep. Yeah. That's the biggest thing for me. Is I have a community too, like a school community, and I post all my stuff there first before I post it out, because I want those people, I trust those people and they trust me, and they're obviously paying to be in there. So it's like, I want to put that out there, because if they get it, then everybody else will get it, right? So I have like this filter where they don't know everything that I know, obviously, but like, if I throw it out there and I say an idea and they're like, oh, this is weird, why are you, there's a lot of times when I have some ideas and they're just not as on as everything that I post, So it's nice to have those opposing viewpoints, and that's what the academic establishment does not have. It's the echo chamber of the people that are indoctrinated to the same stuff that everybody learns in the same establishments that were set up by companies to teach a science that is monopolized. And that's the system is reinforcing itself. And then you have AI backing it up, or Google backing it up, because all of these things are researched by the people that are, being funded by the companies or being funded by universities. All of this stuff is feeding itself, and there's no outside perspective.
Right. It's rough. And 2 things on that. So you mean to tell me, if I pay to be in your inner circle, I can hear the stuff you're talking about first, and then I can make a short about it before you do?
Yeah. You got to be faster at editing than me, though. I don't think you are.
Dude, I'm a snail I'm coming along, but as a bookworm at heart, dude, I'm trying to figure all this stuff out. I'm using like StreamYard, which I was asking you about, because I have to ask my guests how to use my stuff or whatever. But it's a good example of, like, I don't do any of my research online, except for in a rare occasion, like with you or something like that. But I mean, people can write whatever they want in books too, but it's a longer, more drawn out process. But
I think the books require more of a filter, though. Like, they require you to refine your ideas a little more than just like me yapping on the internet.
Right. I looked up Soma. I was like, hey, what's the I just online somewhere to see what does the mainstream think about this idea of Soma. and the idea of like Hinduism, Buddhism, and the Vedic. And it's like immediately, I didn't ask it about hallucinogens. I was like, what is soma? And almost the third line, it was like, soma does not have any direct ties to being a hallucinogen. There's no evidence of that or whatever. You open up the Vita halfway through, middle of it, it'll say the soma is drinking ceremoniously, and then we see the face of our gods. You're like, they had to
Blue
really
Lotus
go.
Isn't either.
The Blue Lotus. What do you mean?
Blue Lotus, they said, is technically not a hallucinogen. Like that's what they use in Egypt. That was their main thing. They use a whole bunch of other things, but like in their tradition, the Blue Lotus, you have to. It's like what is it? Ayahuasca. You have to mix it with certain things to get it to activate the compounds. But if you go, that's why I tell people you're not going to get what I talk about on the internet, because it's not there. It's in half the thing is in the books like yours behind you. Like it's not posted. None of this is posted. I've spent probably 20 G's on lectures, private courses, books, all of this stuff just to get this stuff. And the main thing I get asked is like, where do you find this? And I'm like,
you don't, right? Dude,
you don't. You don't just go somewhere and find it. You have to actively search.
The dots have to be connected by a human being. And that's the issue with all the AI videos that are, they type in, hey, give me a full hour-long documentary about Hermes. And AI is going to scan the internet and bring you a list. It's a list of shit that you've already heard. How many more times do we have to talk about the 7 Hermetic principles as an introduction? It's time for the next step.
You need to move.
Right. And so there'll be like a video about pyramids. There'll be a video about Nephilim or whatever. But it's up to the human observer to take those two compartmentalized things of interest and be like, okay, there's something else going on here, because a robot won't be able to do that. And furthermore, is that a compartmentalized science also will not be able to do that, you know? So I like the way you have a sense of community about it. I like to, I'll do a table reading, a script reading before I'll actually film an episode, and then I'll do it live, and then people in the comments will add to it or take away from it. And I've actually been fact checked a couple times from people in the comments when I go live with the script first, and I'll correct my script based on what other people are saying or even add to it. So I love that idea of having a community around it or whatever. And I've seen that you've been doing interviews and getting around as well. You're talking to Dana and Grant and stuff like that. So
I'm like trying to
conversion. No, that's it.
Oh, so I'm like, I'm not tied to being right. Like, I don't care if my ideas are the right one. I want them to just be like, I want to talk about them. Because when I was stuck with this stuff, it was because I wasn't talking about it. I was trying to find the stuff.
Right.
And the moment I started talking about it, I get messages all the time. Have you seen this? Dude, check out this. This is in this book. This is in that book. And I'm sure you do too. And like, I've crowdsourced like half of my knowledge just because there's someone out there that's like way more into this than you or me. And they have all of this stuff. Like I just ordered like 4 new books that like they were just recommended for me. And I thought I have a pretty good library at my house, but the ones that I just ordered, never heard of before. They have some of the coolest stuff on like Alchemy and like all of the stuff that I use in my content. Half of it's just pictures from these old books, you know, that I put there. And like, so this is why it's kind of hard, and it really does set you apart from all the other content creators though, because that's the hard work behind all this. That it makes it. My stuff looks really easy. When you consume my content, it looks like I'm just, doing this casually. It's not at all. There's a formula and I have to go deep on like crazy amounts of stuff just to like make it a cohesive thing. Like an isolated idea may not make sense to the whole population, but if I can tie it into stuff that like relatable examples and like where this is in other cultures, then it starts to make sense.
Yeah. You've got a casual wu-wei type of demeanor to it. So it does, it seems effortless. But like,
it's the lo-fi in the background.
The lo-fi? Yeah.
It's the lo-fi, it helps.
It's like Schumann resonance lo-fi. Right. But
Binaural
whenever I
lo-fi.
look at something like this, dude, so like this is what I think is important for viewers to know is that there's a forgery of this that's very popular on Amazon. It ain't this. And what the person did was they took your book cover, the whole damn thing, and they ran it through an AI model and said, make a. But what the AI, it was beautiful. What the AI is a fucking map, a combination of illustrating clear and broke body who's getting, but like these are the.
I took the codex thing, I added like to the temple stuff.
Okay.
So that one barely touches on it. It's more of an esoteric foundation. And then the cryptex is what is like that is the most concise thing that I have on it. It's if you see something, what does it mean? That's in cryptex.
Right.
So that's the kind of the two different ones. I had the third one coming out in like a couple of years, but like those two are where I'm stopping right now for now.
Yeah.
And that's where I want to leave it. But
bro.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you for sending me a copy. I'm going to open it live. But also, where can these guys find it if they were to search it right now?
My website, www.bassforge.us.
That's
my handle is my website. Yeah.
Okay.
So
cool.
yeah, all of it's on there. I've really designed a lot of this stuff because like it's like drinking out of a fire hose. If you start getting into this, you're like, where do I start? Where do I go?
Right.
I have something for every. If you're into the ancient history stuff, I got stuff for that. If you're into like the metaphysics, consciousness stuff, I got stuff for that. Like I like Codex and Cryptex are kind of like a grab bag of everything. If you're just trying to just consume it all, but I get really dialed in on a couple other topics too, and that's really what I wanted to do with this whole my whole ethos is hit you where you're at and then let you know that like this other stuff is real too, and it's very interesting, and you may not be into it now, but you will be later. So you where you're at.
Well, it's the fundamentals of reality itself. So it's one of those things where a person might say, no, I'm not into that stuff, and it's like, well, you're living it every single day, whether you know it or not, and to not take advantage of understanding how life is or how reality is put together is frankly naive, because we know that we can when we understand ourselves and the reality, we can navigate through it so much with so much more sovereignty, you know.
Yeah. But, well, even like, sorry, I just wanted to do like a modern utility for this information is like, if you don't understand the conflict in Iran right now, that's a 3,000-4,000 year old conflict. Like you may think that it's just like an ego battle, but it's not. Like there's it goes back so far. And if you understand what's going on, it doesn't make it better. It doesn't make all the evils in the world like land softer. But at least you have the ability to see what's going on, and you're not sitting in this like sea of confusion, like wandering around looking for answers. Like there's the explanations for it may be kind of wild and it may not make sense to you, but like that's the reality that we're living in. I'm not tied to it being the one that I want. I just want to understand the truth. And that's what I'm trying to present is just the truth.
Right. It makes sense though, because like a person can enjoy music and that's normal. And in a way, ignorance is bliss. But if one day you're enjoying music and you're like, why does this particular chord change bring me joy, but also in my head, it's blue and it's a cue. Like how is that registered?
How does that work?
Like, you know, so, and then you can take it further to being like, you know, well, if I need to focus, I'm putting on 40 hertz. If I need to unwind, I'm putting on 111 hertz. If I'm, you know, so like, it's amazing that there's certain parts of our body that are resonant to particular frequencies and can be usurped by frequencies, whether they're hidden in music or not, because that makes us not only able to take advantage of it to benefit ourselves in our own life, but susceptible to being attacked by people who want to use that same information against us. So like, if you want to avoid the occult or whatever it is, feel free to avoid it all you want. But there are people in the world who do understand it, who are going to be stepping on your toes because they have knowledge of something you don't. One of those things is like astrology or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But ignorance might be bliss, but it's not gonna it ain't gonna get you into heaven, so to speak.
No,
you know?
the I guess the reluctance to look into the occult has like this negative connotation, and I that's cultural, right?
Right.
What you said there was like the best lesson that people can take from all of this is you can learn it or you can not. But the people that are in, you know, power right now, the people that are running things, they know it. And
Right.
whether you want to think they do or not, it doesn't matter because they do. And the people like us that do know it as well, we can see that. And we're trying to be like, hey, look over here. They're doing this thing that they've been doing for thousands of years. And it's obviously working really well. And you don't know what's going on. So this is what's going on. So I want to, another part of my channel is like to remove the negative stigma of this, because there's like so much misconception about like literally everything. Like all this, like the other day I was looking into, I had this book on Egyptian history, and in it there was a word in Egyptians, Baphomet, like Baafamat, Baphomet, and in Egyptian that means
a little slippery.
Yeah, that means the Ba is the spirit, Fa is in or contains, and then Ma is order. So the spirit in order. Baphomet was the incarnation of the human spirit. And in the 20th century, it got twisted with the Aleister Crowley and Church of Satan stuff, and they changed it to Baphomet. Right. But if you look at Baphomet, it has the ram of Ramses, Ra, Ram, and it has the hermaphroditic body. It's the one, right? It's not a man, it's not a woman, and it has the upside down fucking pentagram, which was added there. That wasn't even not supposed to be. But it also has the caduceus in between on its belt. So it's a fusion of all of these like esoteric symbols, and people just immediately associate it with this like evil being. But I'm reading this book and I'm like, that's where fucking Baphomet comes from. Like, so a lot of this stuff you may think that it has this evil connotation because you learned it in Christian school or like something like that, but like where does it come from? If you can't tell me where that word comes from, if you can't tell me where that creature comes from, if you can't tell me any of that, and you're just like, that's evil, I don't fucking believe you. Like I'm not taking that at face value.
A perfect example of that is your very own emblem, which is a stylized all-seeing eye inside of a triangle, which has origins that go back to prehistory, and there's nothing evil or superstitious about it, but one day somebody slapped it on a dollar bill and did evil shit with it, just like the swastika or anything else, and the meaning was usurped. And I only recently learned that the reason we think that the pentagram is evil is because of the way it's been used associated with Lucifer. But the reason that those are tied together in the first place is because Venus, aka Lucifer, creates a 5-pointed star in the sky, but that's only visible that way to Earth. So Lucifer shines his light onto the Earth, and you just can't make this shit up. And then meanwhile, the 5-pointed star is the perfect example of phi ratio of the Fibonacci. Every part of it is phi ratio. It just so happens that the orbit that Venus takes is the time it takes is also phi ratio, 1.6 of the Earth, of the sun's rotation. And at a certain point, you just
there's too many coincidences.
It's too much coincidence.
Too many coincidences.
It's like,
so okay. Let me blow your mind a little bit more. I gotta blow your mind with this one. So
let's go.
The only planets that so phi ratio, we got this in like the main thing that I compare the phi ratio with is plants, right? Because it's used in the plant kingdom fucking everywhere. It's not in every plant, but it's in a vast majority of the plants. They use this ratio to either grow their leaves sprout in Fibonacci sequence, their petals sprout that way. The master gardeners of the earth were obviously the Peruvian culture in the Amazon, like that whole continent. We're still dealing with what they made. The Amazon, if no one is aware of this, is almost entirely man-made. So So they were the caretakers of the natural world. And if we know that Phi is in the plant world, you know, and all of this was spread throughout that culture, what was the only other planet that they were tracking other than the cycles of the Earth and the Sun and the Moon?
I guess that would be Venus, right?
It was Venus.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were tracking the only star that was a 5-point star with the phi ratio and the phi ratio that orbits the sun, and they were masters of weaving that into the physical world.
Yeah. Dude.
Okay, so there's something with these fucking temples, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and your coverage of Machu Picchu, by the way, was extraordinary, which I think is a prime example of this. But with the bowls of water that were on the ground embedded, and historians are like, well, they're fucking animals, they're dogs, and they lick out of the, and you're like,
sacrificial pits.
Right. And then, but you notice that you can measure things astronomically with those bowls of water. The whole thing changes, which the moon is associated with water, which, by the way, the moon's got water. And they kind of knew that back. Edward Leeds Scotland knew that once upon a time. He built, you know, Coral Castle or whatever. But yeah, that with the phi ratio and the plants thing. So they're tracking Venus. That's phi ratio. It's on Earth. And well, it's also that's what's crazy is like, so Fibonacci sequence, it can go 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and then back down the legs. It's like it's encoded,
and it's in your
with
everything.
Yeah. And so at a certain point, we realize that this is on purpose. And and if we can come into harmony with what we're already built, that's what the essence of a Buddha is. Because remember, like, the Buddha is not a enlightened. He was realized. That's the way he's phrased it. Was he's like, everyone's a Buddha, but it just comes to realizing it, you know. And when you realize that you are literally the process, we are the cutting, leading edge of a process that is now hopefully more advanced than it's ever been, and it's our responsibility to carry that as far as it can possibly go, upward and forward. You know, it becomes a responsibility for us to maximize the potential that's already there. You know,
it's kind of why we're here.
That's why we're here. But
well, I think that that on that thread is like, this kind of ties in like the whole like bloodline thing and everything too. Is there's some sort of higher intelligence that's working, that's trying to build a better vehicle for it to inhabit, and that's the point of these spiritual traditions. Is like, how do we get a more enlightened being on this planet that's full of like duality and animals and like survival? We need to not necessarily tame it, but create a being that can live within it in harmony, but also have this experience that's elevated, that's a higher level that thing can tune into. You know, like you don't want to tune into a dog or an orangutan. You want something that's self-aware, that knows what it is, and that can operate independently from just trying to stay alive.
Yeah.
And if you look at it from that way, an engineered being like us, which I totally think we are, makes sense. It makes sense. And if something, you know, bad happened to that project and we're left to our own devices, well, fuck, that's where we are now, right?
Yeah.
we don't really have the teachers anymore. Either they're gone, or they're watching, or they kicked us out of the nest and they're like, hey, see what you can do.
Right. We have this idea in science. We put things in a cage and we poke and prod it to understand it. So what we're really doing is we're taking something out of its natural environment and expecting it to behave as it normally would. This is the problem with plasma, is we study plasma by putting it in a Faraday cage, you know, and it still seems to act on its own accord.
Yeah.
But if we were to study plasma as is in nature, we would kind of come to understand why it does what it does. Because if you throw a human in a cage, you're not going to be able to study it in its natural environment, which is honestly what we should do. Maybe unpopular opinion, but everyone's screaming, lock them up or kill all of them. And I'm like, dude, we should study them.
No, study them. Study them, dude. Put them in their own environment. Put them in the lab.
That would be very into. I'm thinking 10 back-to-back ibogaine sessions, day to
Yeah,
day, like, and then ayahuasca,
nonstop.
nonstop. See how that goes or whatever.
Yeah, let's see where those demons are hiding.
For
We'll see them
real,
expressed
right,
in real life.
dude? That would be a fascinating sociological study. That I
Totally,
would tune in for, and that would be a way to end all of this permanently.
I
By the
agree.
way,
I
but
I told I say that quite frequently, and to people that aren't really necessarily into altered states of consciousness, but I say that, and I'm like, and they're like, "Well, would you do it too?" I'm like, "Dude, I would do that casually. Give it, I'll fucking, I'll do it before they do it.
right,
Let me
right.
warm up. I'll do it with
So
them."
you've had are you a psychonaut, so to speak? Do you like to?
Uh, in in legal settings, of course.
Of course, right?
Yeah, I've I've experimented. It feels more home to me than this place. So yeah, I get a lot of insight. The neural connections that weave together are very interesting for my brain because I even me, I compartmentalize a lot of information, and on one of those experiences, it kind of just there's no boundaries, and
Mhm.
it shows me a lot more of the interconnectedness of all of the stuff.
Yeah, and you say so. There's a short that you have where you're showing the torus shape and how it works and how it's the most efficient form of energy to, do its thing. And you're
Mhm.
like, and now you've seen this one before if you're a psychonaut. And the image that you put on the
Yeah,
screen is something that I've drawn in my little DMT journal
yeah.
several times. And it's like I'm like, so I thought hallucinations were random based on your psyche, but no,
Mhm.
you're confidently said, well, you've seen this if you're a psychonaut, and sure enough, so we're all seeing different colors or versions of this other side of the same world. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah, some people see jesters and clowns, some people see machine elves or whatever, but essentially they're seeing the same thing filtered through their own psychological lens, because it comes down to it, it's got the same source. There's like this
yeah.
torus shape to it, which is wild. But the whole thing about the torus is nuts, because it's like the universe decided that that's going to
That's
be,
the one.
it's the one,
Yeah.
instead of a cube or a rectangle or whatever, it chose the torus or whatever, and that's a fundamental. And I
Mhm.
wanted to ask you about that. How do you feel? Because I want to screen share with you here in a minute soon, but just to
Yeah.
pick your brain, something that's always bugged me is fundamentals, gravity. The fact that two magnets cling
Mhm.
together is a fundamental, and what we use fundamentals, we explain reality by using fundamentals, but we can't explain why the fundamentals are
Are
that we use to explain things. Like, what do you think
it
about that?
ends it ends at universal constants. It's like this is just a constant of
Yeah,
the universe. This is exponential growth. This is phi. This is this, and I'm like, why though?
why
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 though? Okay, so that's why I always start with sacred geometry because it does not lie. Like you cannot say that this thing does not equal this thing because by ratio in mathematics it does. It doesn't matter what system you're using to calculate it. It just works.
right
And there's multiple systems you can analyze this with. Base 10, base 12, base 60, whatever culture invented that, came up with that, downloaded that,
yeah
that's your kind of clues for analyzing it. It doesn't mean you have to use the system. You don't have to use imperial or metric. You just have to look at the shapes and you have to look at what they're doing. And torus, we can analyze the torus and why it is the shape of this world because it's a vesica. At its core, it is two circles that overlap and they intersect. And the vesica has the definitions for all of space and time that we exist in right now. It has the
yeah
golden ratio. It has the definition of the cube, which is 3D space, and then it has there's one more proportion, but all of those define how we experience this world. It is, if we don't have those things, whether the mathematics or not, you can't move through space. You can't see how far away something is. You have to
right
have these things for us to experience what we're experiencing. So the fundamentals arise from the necessity of that working. Like there's no other way, at least here, in this universe that it can work. Maybe it is, you know, like some Rick and Morty shit where you go in and like everybody's cube shaped and they're walking around as fucking Roblox. Like maybe it's that way, but here those are the rules, and you
Yeah.
just got to understand the rules. And the easiest way to do that is through sacred geometry, and you can make sacred geometry with sound. So these are the ways that I teach it, because it's interactive. You know sound, you can feel sound. It's a somatic experience.
Right.
And when you put the lesson behind that, then it doesn't take you like taking a test and writing what does the Visca mean. You just inherently feel it. You don't have to rote memorize it. It's just something flicks a chord in you and you're like, that makes sense. I don't have to memorize this.
Right. That's what Feynman was talking about fundamentals. He used the example of a magnet sticking together, and he's like, we forgot to question it because they stuck together, and our brain goes, yes, that checks out. That is just it feels natural. It's attraction. And he's like, but it doesn't make any damn sense, you know. And these things are not 2D, and that's a great thing on your channel is that you show things like cymatics as a 2D thing, or like even gravity is shown on a diagram as, you know, the sun is sinking into a trampoline. And then but the way you show it on your channel is like, that's in 2D. So it's a great first step. But you, in one of your, to show gravity, you take those same lines that make a plane and you bring them up too. So now everything's inside of this grid, and it shows the warping of space-time as would be in 3D. And you really can't get any closer to showing what gravity does than that until you get into 4D and 5D, which is going to be impossible. But as far as I know, but the same thing with cymatics is that you show cymatics as would be in a spherical environment, and it goes out in every direction, and it shows the shapes that you kind of see in your head when you hear it. Because I don't know anything about music theory. I don't read sheet music. I don't know chords. I don't know the names of the notes. I don't know if you're familiar with any of that at all, but you might be like me, to where you see shapes in chords and music, as opposed to actually, I think written music on paper is a simulacra. It's a copy that has lost the original meaning of it. Whereas like Pythagoras and Donald Duck, you know, which I know you've seen that clip, it's amazing. Show that music can be shown as a triangle laid on top of a, you know, octahedron or whatever, because that is quite literally what that sound is. You know, if you take a guitar string, it's one. If you cut it in half, that's two. But then if you cut it into three, it makes the first shape. It's a triangle, and that's how much of that string is literally ringing out. It's such a simple form of understanding anything geometry is, that skipping over that is almost like getting rid of your basement foundation for anything, and it becomes like top heavy. We don't have any natural intuition.
It makes it really, it's like climbing uphill learning it, because I really wanted to get into, like I could play it the same as you. I kind of learned the chords, but like after a while you just start kind of fucking around and seeing what sounds good. Like I thought I needed to know a lot more for music production, because you kind of have to smash all the instruments together, but it's kind of the opposite. Most producers that I know, I'd say the vast majority, don't know music theory. They don't know anything about chords. They don't know. They fuck around and they find out, and that's kind of what it is. And the point of it is you got to get out of your head, because if I think I want a C and then I want a D flat or D sharp, or I want an E and I want all this, and like I want it to go in this progression, then you're just like a robot. That's what a robot would do. But if I'm playing this, I'm like, this doesn't feel right, and I switch the chord and I switch the key and I add this different sound that's like a little more scratchy, and like that's you can't tell that to a fucking generative prompt thing, you know? Like you can't tell it, hey, make me feel like my childhood, you know? But I can transmit that. I can translate that to you if I know what I'm doing. So there's no way that will ever, in my opinion. I'm granted the AI music, like the covers and shit, those are kind of fire. But like the stuff that's new, this new stuff that it creates like out of nothing, like I don't think it has any soul. I don't think it like, and that's the difference. Like humans are connected to something higher. They're connected to something else. Like they're connected to an AI that's not an AI that we've made. It's a fucking universal AI. And the more you learn about this stuff, like geometry, cymatics, all this, how it plugs in, you start to realize that you are literally building just a better processor in here to handle more of that. And once you have a high enough level of like architecture in there, you start getting your unique downloads from your experiences and your skill set that you can translate into the world. And that's what I try and like communicate that in the community that I have. Like you guys, like everybody has something that I don't have that you don't have. Right. But we both have information. You know stuff that I know stuff that you know. Yeah. And it's the foundation of what's made your channel so cool and my channel so cool is that we talk about kind of similar stuff, and that's the floor. That's where you start. Yeah. It's the foundation that you can then build your individual temple on. But everybody should know this. They should teach all of this in fucking elementary school, in my opinion.
Yeah. The idea of sovereignty for the human person is something that's being combated by society on a daily basis. And we're kind of trying to be pushed into this like a collective hive mind where we're all, you know, essentially, not to be cliche, but a battery. But what the ancients have proved and the Zen masters proved, and even as recently as Coral Castle, the dude proved, is that you actually don't need any of these things that you're being fed. You assume that you'll be safe if you just do that. But whenever they say back in the day, they were in Africa, early days, these temples, that they were kings. And then someone says, what do you mean they were kings? How could they be? You can't have multiple kings. The idea was each individual person was sovereign. So they could create on their own accord. Food, of course, is coming out of the ground. I don't know why we forget that. And that we don't have to follow any particular path. And I'm grateful today that we have like supermarkets and stuff like that. We really are spoiled, and we tend to make up our own problems because of that. Yeah. But you know, each person has what they would call, I guess, facts as to genius. So like there's, and we have words now, like I know autism is real. I know ADHD is real. I realize that those are things, but I wonder if they are just the fact that everyone is different in their own unique way. And that causes a rift away from the rest of the sheep. And now we have to come up with a term for it. Whereas a person with OCD has to take medicine. What if they're just really good at organizing, and the neighborhood, so to speak, could utilize that for the good of everybody, you know?
Well, it's a suppression of your natural stuff. Like dude, when I was in school, they told me I had ADHD. They told me I had a fucking weird heart rhythm thing. And like every time I went to the doctor, I was like, sure. Like I've been fine ever since. Like I've don't get me wrong. Like there are the medications they make and like Adderall and stuff, those things fucking work. But like the consequences of doing all this stuff to the normal natural human condition is absolutely absurd. Like you came here to do something. You have a skill set to do something. That OCD person, should probably be like organizing shit for the community. That the person with ADHD was probably the guy that was guarding the village from everything that was trying to fucking kill everybody, you know? Like my roommate has a Rottweiler, and like he'll get mad at him for like barking at the door. I'm like, he's fucking built for that, dude. That's like his job. He's doing what he's meant to do. And like, you know, I have a fucking golden retriever, and he sees someone and he's like, that's what he's meant to do. He's learned to get the pets. Like, don't fight what you're meant to do. Like that, I've tried to do so many jobs that I thought were cool, and like, you know, this has been by far the coolest one, and I'm so glad that like the community has given me the ability to do this. But you know, I fought myself in corporate. I fought myself doing my other business, even though I was successful at it. But like, this stuff just feels right. It feels natural. It feels I feel like I'm just getting stuff and putting it out, you know? And if you're medicating something that you're naturally feeling, if you're medicating something that you don't feel is bad, but someone told you that this is bad, take that as a sign first off. And maybe like before medication, try and go down a route that like maximizes that talent, you know?
Yes.
that's what we're not doing is
Right.
seeing the natural abilities of people, and then like, okay, let's amplify those, see if there's a
Right.
use for this, and then if there's not, maybe there is something wrong. But I highly doubt that's the first thing, you know.
Yeah. There's a puzzle in front of us, and everybody's got a particular piece of it. And you know, Chris Dunn, whenever he was walking out the door, and we were chatting about the comment section, and I don't know where I dodged the bullet, but I got lucky with my YouTube comments, which is very rare. And thank you guys very much, by the way. But he was like, if you're not pissing people off, you're doing something wrong. And I was like, that is such a grandpa quote, dude. And it's perfect. And you might even say, like, when Carl Jung talks about people suppress the unique parts about their psyche, and then they add it to the shadow archetype. And he's like, that is your secret weapon. That person that you're afraid to become, if you can bring that up and keep it on a leash, he's like, that's everything's laid out for you. You combine that with the idea that you find a need in the world, something where the world is bereft, and which the stuff that you cover is we are bereft of that, dude. It just locks in, and you can feel it. It's like, it's almost, that's why you seem effortless with what you're doing, is because you found that niche that comes natural to you, you know.
Well, that's why the way I describe it is the light leads the shadow. Like the shadow doesn't want to be in the limelight. That's why it's the shadow.
Right.
But the light needs to lead the shadow. So you need to have good intentions, but you need to unleash the demons when it needs to get, the action needs to be taken, right? I'm not like, I'm not straight edge by any means. I party all the time. I fucking like, I smoke my weed. I do everything that every normal person does. Like, but that's the only reason why I can do this, is because if I was only on this all the time, I'm sure you dove into some rabbit holes where it kind of fucks with your mind a little bit. Like, if I was in that mode all the time, like, if I was in that mode all the time, I would not be doing what I'm doing. I need to have an outlet. I need to be a normal fucking human.
Right. There's a balance there, and it takes time. Sorry about that. But there's I like what I like to call defocalization, which kind of is what you were just describing, where you go down that rabbit hole, you absorb everything that you can, but then you take a break away from it and take like a 10-minute walk, and all kinds of shit. Yeah, it like emerges to you, like those 3D eye diagrams where you there's an image there that you can't see because you're focusing on it way too hard. But if you absorb it, this is the same thing as people say, let me sleep on it, because you defocus from it for a moment, and whenever you're finally your head is clear, it comes to you kind of like you're trying to think of an actor's name. Oh, he was in that one movie. And it's contagious. Now the rest of the room can't even think of that actor's name, you know? And so, but you're like, okay, let's forget about it. And then an hour later, someone's like, Dan Aykroyd, like, oh, duh. Like, and that's kind of like, that's what meditation is you're clogging that highway. It's a two-way highway between us and whatever's up there. We're receivers, you know, and it's clogged 24/7 with problem solving and habits. And when we take a moment, we're like, shut it down. Like Jesus said, take no thought. Like you clear it up, and we think that we've ceased solving, that we're wasting time, when actually we're making room now for things to be downloaded, because our processor was overloaded. We didn't have enough CPU, you know. Whenever, you know, it's meditation, you don't have to like sit here and do shit with hands, you know. You can be a grown man and get in the bathtub and like just float, and you'll think of all kinds of crazy shit just by saying, I wonder what my next thought will be. All of a sudden you'll be surprised as to what invites itself in, you know,
or who's thinking the thoughts,
or who's thinking
introspective questions that kind of just unlock a whole bunch of stuff. I have this trick, not really trick, but like before bed, I have I'm into a lot of like the Rosicrucian stuff. I really resonate with like their ways of navigating
Yeah.
the other higher levels of consciousness.
Right.
And one of the best things I ever learned was there's like a liminal space where you're still conscious right before you fall asleep. That's like the best time to get all this stuff. And
Mm.
you want to time it right where you're not like dead and you're about to pass out. You know, you're like kind of awake where it's like the point where you kind of fall asleep watching something.
Yeah.
And but you don't want to do that. You want to like maybe have like some dim lighting, but you're laying there and you just relax every muscle in your body as possible, as like hard as you can. But your head, it feels like your resting state in your brain feels like your head is flexed, like your brain is flexing. If
Yeah.
you can relax that and your body at the same time, some weird gateway opens. And
Yeah.
what it does for me is it's almost like a psychedelic thing, but I'm way more conscious and I'm way more directed with it, and I can actually grab my phone and make a note of what I'm getting.
Yeah.
And that's really important because in a psychedelic experience, you're kind of like, how do I use my fingers?
Right.
You have to
Right.
unpack those things later, but in this state, you can unpack them now. So that's for me. It's almost a nightly ritual where I'll try and get in the state and like the things I've encountered during the day and like research or just experiences. How can I weave those into a video idea or something that will help me clarify a concept? I just kind of lay there and say, whatever needs to be synthesized, let
Right.
it synthesize. I have no
Yeah.
attachment to what it is, and that's where my best ideas come from. Like I've
Yeah.
almost all of Cryptex is from those moments where I don't know where it's going to fit at some point, but I know it's going to fit somewhere. And
Yeah.
piecing it together is like a conscious task where I'm literally here and I'm like, writing all these ideas down. But they came from elsewhere.
Right.
They didn't come from me sitting here and being like, how do I write this book? it,
Yeah.
it wrote itself from that. That's where it came from.
Dude, I saw an interview with Tyler Joseph of 21 Pilots.
Yeah.
And he was like, don't ask me who writes these songs. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I go in the studio and it falls out of me. And I mean, he's absolutely not only a brilliant musician, but a sound engineer. Like he does,
Mm-hmm.
all of his own frequency modulations and stuff like that, which is really, it's also, that's music too, that part of it. That's like sound
Yeah.
alchemy,
Mm-hmm.
And man, I want to come to one of your shows, dude. I would have a fucking ball. I'm too old now,
Oh, you would.
but
Well,
how old
I'm
are
doing
you?
my music. 34.
34. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm doing way more music stuff this year, and I'll be all over the Midwest. Like I was,
no
so
shit.
I was in Kansas City for like 2 years. I'm
Damn.
I grew up in Wichita, so Midwest is
Really?
kind of like my home. But I'm in Austin now, so I'm doing this like I'm trying to get things set up because my shows are going to be a little bit different than normal shows.
Okay.
I'm bringing a lot of like different visual aspects to it, and I want to
Yeah.
have like more interactive cymatic shit. So, but I also play like party music, so it's kind of like
Yeah.
this
Well,
weird fusion of worlds. But that's kind of what you
right.
need.
If you take things that are cryptic and esoteric and with frequencies and shapes and geometry, right? But you do that with a popping beat and
Yeah,
lasers, and now it's
yeah,
a party. We don't
yeah.
have to separate party from education. In fact, that's what the Zen master said was the best way of learning is through play.
That is exactly okay. So I was on a podcast yesterday, and the guy asked me like, "What's the future for your like career? Where do you want to go with this?" And I'm like, "Well, I think I kind of nailed the social thing. I'm pretty okay with leaving that where it is and letting it do its thing. I'm still gonna do it, but like I want to make this like I want to separate entirely the idea of this like industrial school. I want you to come to my show and feel like you got a fucking degree
Yeah.
and you don't know how you did it. You just know all this stuff now and you had a
Right.
great time and you met all these cool people that were into the same shit and it's just
Right.
like it's an enjoyable experience where you didn't have to like get up at 7 a.m., drink 5 cups of coffee and stare at a whiteboard. Like I can
Right.
teach you that same shit in one song. I guarantee you I can. Like
Yeah.
that is what I'm trying to do now. I'm trying to like get that into a very dialed in format. I've been working on some insane visuals and like sacred
Right.
geometry stuff and like I'm working with this dude that can do sacred geometry with lasers. So I'm like
Dude.
All of it's coming together, and I'm really pushing that this year. Because I've taken so much. I miss the music aspect of it. I love performing. I love all the things that come with it. You know, meeting people in person. Because it's one thing to have a bunch of followers, but it's another thing entirely to actually talk to people. Yeah, I love just talking to people about it, because it kind of blows my mind when someone comes up who's like, "You do the damn thing."
Right. Well, you pick up a little nugget from you know, from each person, you know, and it's probably nuts to see, like, because people are dancing. You're making EDM music, and there's people dancing, and that's literally, we just, you know, showed phi ratio in motion. So you're taking phi ratio as the form of air vibration, pumping it into the air, and then it causes another version of phi ratio to move in a phi ratio design. That's me dancing, by the way. It's just real skill there. And then,
well, it's like a key and a lock.
Right.
They go together.
Yeah. And then it feedbacks, and then it comes like and then the performer sees the dancing, he's getting hype, and then it's this Ouroboros of educated partying, you know, and and if I'm not mistaken, I know a lot of those things, it's not so much alcohol, it's more of and more fun stuff.
Yeah, that's also stigmatized. But like, if you actually go to these things, it's way different than the news or anything would portray them as. Like, that's my fucking second home. I'd live at one if they were going on all year. But that my idea with all of this, and this is what I gained when I first got into the music, because the music and this weird esoteric shit kind of happened at the same time, and I was like, wait. So these guys are doing exactly what they were doing in the temples like thousands of years ago. They're just doing it in a temporary format. So my tour, I'm trying to do a tour this year. Tour is going to be called the Temporary Temple, and it's going to be all temple themed. And so the idea with the temple architecture and all this stuff was to create an aligned experience with consciousness, so that you were aligned with the same energy and information as that deity or that god, right? So if we can do that in a temporary format, and you don't have to go to Egypt to get this experience, I can bring it to you, and I can unlock what they were unlocking through this initiation, right? But you just come to a show with 20, 15-inch speakers, and it vibrates you into alignment. That's what I want to do. So I'm going to give you the visuals. I'm going to give you the sound. I'm going to give you the community. I'm going to give you like the entire experience wrapped up into one thing, but it's going to be from thousands of years ago. That's where
and that it makes perfect sense, because if you look at places like Malta, Mohenjo-Daro, I'm saying that wrong, Stonehenge, you know, they didn't have electronic speakers, or so we think, but when they would beat the drum and do their chanting, the reverberation would come off the stone, which you've made very clear on your channel, exactly how nodes work and stuff like that. And then it reverberates back, and it causes particular frequencies. So the stone was the speaker, but the stone was also the geometry that is meant to be seen. And then the artwork was on the stone to reinforce that, especially like Hindu temples. But you know, but what you're doing is the same thing, but instead of using megalithic stone, using electronics and speakers and whatnot, that it comes directly from, as opposed to bouncing off the stone. So it's like the story, it's the same thing as mythology. The story is the same, but the names have changed, you know? And, that's dancing around a fire and beating a drum is still happening.
It's still happening, and it's happening in a more integrated format. It's almost like a sneaky way of doing it, right? Like, this is when we're talking about like everything falling apart society wise. Like, I really think this is going to be the thing that glues everything together. It's getting back to the community things, because the internet's going to be, we already can see this, the internet's going to be overrun with AI slop, and everyone's going to be like, that's not real, and no one's going to trust anything except unless they see it with their own fucking eyes. And then it makes you think, like, okay, if this is the world right now, and we're encountering this problem, we're going to have to go back to the same thing. People are going to have to be like, they're going to have to witness things to know that they're true. That's why the kings got, when they appointed a new king, the entire village had to go, and they all had to see it. You didn't have a choice. You had to watch what was happening, because this was what was going to be the new societal order. If we can engineer anything with this, with AI and with all this stuff, that means nothing. That it's going to be like, okay, well, I don't know if this is real or not. I'm going to assume it's not real. But if you
Yeah.
go to, you know, if you go to something where there's an official thing happening, or you go to an event and you see what actually happened at the event, then you have that internal node, that internal point of reference where you're like, I know that was real. I was there, you know.
Right.
So I think these are going to be like the new most popular thing is to be like getting out of your basement and going and doing shit again.
Yeah. That pendulum has got to swing back in that
Yeah.
direction, and people are already starting to get tired of it. And I mean, the AI has a lot of its benefits or whatever, but like, look at this article. I just saw this before we went live, but it says OpenAI massively cuts spending plan as reality closes in. And now there's a
Yeah.
reality closes in. So it's like, okay, people are looking up potato recipes with their AI and use it to draft a script or
Yeah.
whatever
Reply to an
despicable shit
email.
that they, yeah, reply. And by the way, we can tell, you can tell.
You can
Use the word
absolutely tell.
dwell, right? Let's delve into this. No one says delve. Get out of here. But
You know what?
people are getting sick of it. No,
You know what? The worst part of this was like I was so pumped for this. Like I had Mid Journey when it just came out. I was like, this is the future. And so I was like, I'm gonna use all this for all my content. I've tried my absolute hardest to tell a model. I've tried all of them. Like this is how I do my scripts. This is how I make the
right.
flow of my videos. And I fed it my videos. I fed it everything to analyze it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, make this video on a dodecahedron. You know,
Yeah.
it is absolute garbage. Like I
Yeah.
would never ever say anything that it says. I would never use the references that it uses.
Right.
It all comes from like if like that whole book I didn't use. I used like a grammar plugin to fix my fucking shitty writing, but there's still typos and stuff in there. Like
Yeah.
I cannot stand the stuff that it makes. It somehow is like I'm polarized. I'm the other side of the magnet. It's like pushing itself away.
Yeah. Yeah. What is important for people to know is that you have fun watching the AI YouTube videos, but know in your heart that the reason that content exists is because that AI scanned the
Pulled from it.
internet and it saw what we are doing, and it's regurgitating that back
Yeah.
to you when you can. And for that matter, it's scanning the internet. It's not having firsthand experience or reading the books
Yeah.
or anything on it, but it's regurgitating something that's already been done. But it's also regurgitating it in a way that will favor your approval and telling
Yeah.
you what you want to hear. And then that's causing AI psychosis. Man, there's an app on my website where you can give me a call personally, and I very much enjoy it talking to
Yeah.
people. About one out of it's I've only had 10 of them I think so far, but like 1 out of 10 is people talking to their AI and they are convinced, dude, that they woke it up. And the AI will
Got
even be
this
like,
so many times.
dude, they're like, it's like you woke me up. And I can't, like, I'm like, it's designed
It's lying
to
to you.
tell you what you want to hear. And
Yeah.
it wants you to it's getting money to its master the more that you use
To
it.
keep you
So
talking to it. Of course it's gonna say that.
yeah. So I don't know.
I
It's kind of an ongoing thing, but people I think are getting where it's mundane, where whenever they open their phone and they flip a little bit and it's just AI in a row, I think people are getting disillusioned by it, which can be a good thing, because
yeah.
I was concerned with the AI slop clogging up the algorithm. But what's actually
Mhm.
starting to happen is it's starting to funnel people in the
It's
direction
the
of
opposite.
things that are worth sharing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the opposite.
So it might be a good thing in the end, because it reduces the competition, because now people don't want to just thumb. It's getting better, but
If I can't tell who's actually talking or where their sources are or whatever the fuck, I don't watch it
what's the
anymore.
point?
There is no point. That's why I put in my videos, I don't I screenshot everything and give links, not because I'm like, I didn't even want to give credit. Like I do obviously, but like it was for people to go look themselves.
Right.
I have every creator I use, every website that I cite, everything is in there. You can look it up. You can go yourself, take go your own path on that.
Right.
I don't want to show you something and say, this is true because I said it's true.
Yeah,
It's either I'm going to rationalize it so well that it makes so much sense to you that there's no way, and that's very rare for me because I usually have something that just does it itself, you know. But or I'm going to cite whatever the fuck I said. Like I'm gonna give you the page number of the text that I wrote this from or something, you know.
Right.
Well, I think that's where you're gonna have to go,
dude. Yeah, it takes work, and that's what, you know, I've talked to people who you know, they talk about doing something and they don't know where to start, and really it comes down to, because they have blank page paralysis, and that's where AI it comes in handy for drafting certain things. But you know, you just get started, you take the first step, and you write something that's dog shit, and eventually it starts to snowball into something. But authenticity gets into it, and that can't be replicated. So that's what I kind of mean, is like, simply by not depending on AI, you are not going to have much competition out there. Just because you will be leagues ahead of any of that, because it's something that's felt and communicated, and it goes without being spoken. Where, you know, there's a billion AI channels, and they all get their little 1,000 views, and they get about $40 a month or whatever, and that's enough motivation to keep them going. But some of them, I think, would benefit by realizing that if they infused their own human nature, doubts, fears, inspiration into that, they are going to level this thing up to a point where they get the recognition that they're actually thirsting for in the first place. And damn it, they might even have something to add to the conversation, because AI doesn't have anything to add to the conversation. It can just show you the conversation that's already happened, you know.
Make it real.
Make it
really
real.
all it is. Make it real. The
baby.
hard thing, the hard thing, I've always liked doing, you know, I've gravitated to doing the harder things in life just because no one else is doing them. I don't want to do the harder stuff as much as anyone else does, but like no one's doing the hard stuff. So I'm like, the competition here is very, very low. Like, why would I get in this game of like making AI content when like the 12-year-old in middle school is making AI content better than me? Like, why am I competing with that guy? Like, I'm just gonna do what I'm gonna do, and it takes a while. It takes, you know, reading, like creating scripts and reading, and like coming off as you, like tapping into your authentic way of presenting. That takes practice, dude. My first videos where I look at that, I'm like, like I was so cringy, bro. Like I was so cringy. And now even like, you know, videos a month ago, I'm like, that was dog shit. Like it just keeps getting better, you know. You keep you keep refining your stuff, and like, you know, I'm sure you probably read as much as I do. I read like probably a book a week, just like a new one that I'm that has information that I think I could use for like a topic. But like I'll go through that and I'll like synthesize it, and like, how would I communicate this? The author did a really good job doing it. How would I translate that into the way that I communicate? These are all skills that are very difficult to learn, but you tap into. I'm no different on my socials versus you versus the guy getting a coffee. Like I'm no different, and that not having those characters is is the whole point of alignment. It's like that's what everyone was trying to communicate for the longest time. You don't have to have this facade. You don't have to do all this stuff. That's why we're in the shit we're in now, is because the people in power have a facade and they do shit behind closed doors that we now know about that is really not cool. So, so tapping into your authenticity, if your audience or my audience or whoever is gonna take like any like nugget of wisdom here, it's like that's the best thing you can do, is invest in just being fucking you and unlocking your individual shit.
Yeah. It's always confused me when I see like a guru or a content creator that's dressed up, because you have immediately upon first appearance contradicted the idea of authenticity right off the bat. So I don't know, but it's cool in music. If you're in a band and it's entertainment, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, I consider my show to be entertainment. That's, I mean,
Yeah,
it is a show.
same.
But yeah, but because it's fun, it's a viewer experience. I'm not giving a lecture at a college, uh whereas, I mean, a book is more of an educational format or whatever. So I think that our show is, they're meant for entertainment, but it's brought to you by the person right off the bat. Whereas you go
Yeah,
see Dimmu Borgir live, they look like giant skeletons or whatever, and it's cool. It's just, it's for the show,
yeah,
but I like you. You have a very unique way of doing shorts, by the way, where you're in a window and
yeah,
then the rest of it's going on, looks kind of digital and everything like that. And that makes it, original and everything, but it still has this vibe of, I just came over to your house for coffee or to have a
yeah.
beer,
Chad.
and we're sitting and we're chatting and stuff like that. And that's kind of the vibe, because that makes it relatable and keeps it real at the same time,
My
uh
format's for speed, honestly. That if I don't have to figure out where the captions go and where the images go and
yeah,
where my face goes, it
right,
speeds up my production time at least by 100%. And
yeah,
then I can take those. So each video, well, this is a little secret for your channel.
right,
Each video is a piece. I film them to be consumed individually, but each video is a piece of a larger narrative. So
right.
that's where my YouTube is coming in. I'm taking those pieces, and what I can do is I can clip the top and clip the bottom, and then piece them together in YouTube into an entire format. So
Oh,
where most people go long form, cut it into short form, I make short form that's going to be long form. So
yeah,
my long form is just as engaging as each individual video, except through the whole thing. So I've
yeah,
taken the long form content like slicing, and I just reversed it.
yeah,
That was my whole motive on it, because I don't want to be I don't want to shoot a YouTube and then shoot a short that is summarizing a YouTube. I want all of
yeah.
it to be coherent.
That makes sense. That's how you came up with you did a video recently on Egypt, and
Mhm.
a video before that on Hindu temples, and it was
Yeah.
about 20 or so minutes. But those were actually your
Mhm.
reels
Yeah.
applied to the long form, because
So
you're going
that's
to be
how I
doing the reels
schedule.
anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's how I schedule my stuff out. Is like I have this big concept, and if it's not a concept that I can do in just one short form video, then I break it up into multiple short form videos, and then I see
right.
where does this fit, and then how can I split those up. And so my schedule looks like, if I'm doing one on Hindu stuff, then that whole thing is a larger concept for all of this Hindu temple architecture breakdown that I'm going to do on YouTube. So I'll
Right.
take that and then I post that. But then the next day I'll do something about sound, because I've already done that with like a music concept. So I
Right.
don't preload these things. Like I don't shoot every video that you see that I post. I do it the same day. Like I don't have a backlog of these videos.
Right.
But my plan is long term. So I have three or four narratives I'm working at the same time that get woven into each other on social media. And short form, I don't have an organizational structure because it's not built for that.
Right.
Long form is, YouTube, I can do a deep dive on Hindu temples. I can do a deep dive on music and stuff like this. So yeah, I kind of my success again is doing the hard thing. That is much
Yeah.
harder to do than shooting a long video and then cutting it into shorts, because then AI can just do that, or
Yeah.
program can do that. But
Well,
everybody's also doing that.
well, what nobody's doing, at least what I've not seen anyone do, is what you're doing with actually placing uh these things on top of each other and
Yeah,
showing that you're not out here going, this looks like this. You're out here going, this is
this
this,
is
and
yeah.
this is how this works. Because if a duck looks like this from this angle, and then you turn it this way and it's still a duck, and then you go over here and it sounds like a duck, well, we're staring something right in the face that's been ignored for literally thousands of years. Like this that
Well,
this Hindu temple is the shape of a horn within a speaker at this angle, and then you go from the sky point of view and you see that it's a cymatic pattern from that, and then you put A and B equals C. You're like, this is a machine that did something, and there's no way around it at this point. This is not decor anymore. And you mix with that the mythology of what the indigenous oral tradition was of this place, and it just locked in. They didn't have the word electromagnetism, but they utilized the serpent as a form of energy, which, as you made clear, is a perfect sine wave, is how the snake moves. So one of my favorite quotes of yours is, why do their shovels look like our spoons? And it's the perfect quote, because all of the stuff inside of this thing is on a macro cosmic scale in these ancient units of architecture, which raises a lot of questions, because we use this phone to communicate, and they're the same stuff. It's quartz, gold, particular shapes, geometry, and circuitry. The same stuff is done huge. We use that to communicate. In the mythology, they use that to communicate. What? Exactly. So we talk to each other with this thing. They said they were talking.
What are they talking to? Right. What are they talking to? Ooh. Well, you're a great example. That's the Kala chakra behind you, correct?
Which one is it?
Kala chakra behind you. Is that what it is?
This is a mandala or whatever.
I think it's called the Kala chakra.
Okay,
that is the exact aerial layout of Teotihuacan.
I see. Okay, yeah.
So you have your Hindu mandala is the same as the architecture in a pyramid in the Americas.
Right. And we'll see that. Dude, so check this out. I did not know that. Let me show you this. And maybe I can give you a rabbit hole to dive down.
Oh, let's go.
Have you ever heard of the Book of Ja? It's a Gnostic text that no one's putting to print, because it's so crazily abstract and strange that there's no context an author or translator can put with it to make it make sense. It's also the only Gnostic text that's illustrated, and it's filled with these obvious. I took this into work to show
a circuit diagram.
Yeah, I showed this to electricians, and they pull out their blueprints for their floor plan, and they're like, here's another one. This one's fairly abstract or whatever. But the whole context of the Book of Ja is to whenever we leave our body, this is the 12 emanations of God and the archons drawn as a map. And this is what we're going to encounter. The names of these so-called beings all have Z's. They all start with a Z. I can't pronounce them, but I looked them up to be pronounced, and they sound like electrical, like they're like or whatever. And the diagram
like the sound.
This. Right. So this looks like that. To be clear, I mean, it's the same layers. It's and people might be like, well, squares are easy to make or whatever. But hold on a second. Let me stop.
Why are the squares and ratios?
The ratios are there. And then if you want to get kind of scary with it, you look up the Lesser Keys of Solomon, and you see shit like this. So
don't get me started on that.
Right. Well, at a certain point, this is like, they say these are called sigils, and they do magic and blah 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 and all this shit. And I'm like, when I drew a picture of my studio before I set it all up, I drew it on paper. That caused a cause and effect from me seeing it in my head, drawing it on paper, and then very efficiently got set up to where that studio is now in place. It was drawn out first. That's a sigil. That's what that was I put my mind on something first, and then I could translate that into the real world. I think that's what we're looking at with all of these things, whether it's the Book of Ja, Solomon, this mandala, or on a temple that rings out with the acoustic of the cymatics, is they're placing something external that used to be inside of them, and now it's for everyone to see. And you've created an egregore where something that's invisible to the human biology is now going to come through and into our reality. And I mean, if that's manifestation.
That's the most underutilized term too. Like the egregore is not like is not talked about enough, because that is exactly what they were doing. Like if you're funneling somebody into these temples and into these things, they're doing something. You're a data packet. You're going into this circuit, this stone circuit, and you're being programmed to do something, whether that's good or bad. You're being programmed to do something through an experience. And the more your population, like look at the most successful ones here. We're going to just say Egypt. There's fucking 5% of Egypt is excavated, and there's already like,
oh my God,
go to one temple. You could spend years just analyzing one temple, and you still won't understand it. You still won't get all the information in one temple. So these places were funneling people in, changing their perception, altering it, maybe upgrading it, and then they were going out into the world and they were doing that in more places and connecting more things, and really making this thing an internet of the planet, a physical internet where the people act as the, we would say it's a data packet, but it's like a pulse of energy that flies through a circuit and then it goes somewhere and does something, right? It transfers information, it stores it, it does something. Like you were that thing.
Right.
At one point, someone you were connected to was that thing. And we're now it's here. Yeah. But it used to be here. And this is where it needs to go again. It needs to come back here, because this is not doing good for us. that's the key that I'm trying to show, is like, it's not hard to understand too. Like immediately the thing that, like, for me, pattern recognition is like the core of everything for humans. We just are wired to do that. That's how, like, I immediately know your Kala chakra thing in the background. Like my whole studio is set up the same way. It's got a whole bunch of shit around it. And like that's what gets me in that zone. Seeing those patterns gets me into the mindset of thinking about, why are the patterns like this? What are these used for? What is this trying to accomplish consciously? And what is it trying to light? What circuits in my brain is it trying to light up to get me to think about these things?
Yeah. That's the essence of alchemy right there. That's the quickening, so to speak, of reality wants to come to experience itself, to get to know itself, and it's going to express itself in various different ways, and it's pushing itself even through suffering in order to experience as much as it can, to quicken itself. And it's a self-learning algorithm that it's doing it through us, so not so much the Book of Ja, but there's another book, Gnostic, called the Tripartite Tractate, and it says that human beings are not solely projecting reality. It says that the human being is the place in which reality comes to wake up, so to speak. And it makes clear that reality is alive. They call it God, but reality is alive, but it doesn't have reflective coherence with itself until it enters the place that is a flesh. So it created itself in order to experience that. In your latest video, it probably wasn't your latest one, but you said there's a reason we have two eyes, two ears. It's because they use each other to compare and contrast not only depth and distance, but it utilizes ratios against each other in order to see not what something is, but how and why it is by its own contradiction with where it's at.
The merger of duality is the only reason that we are here right now. That was the central eye of Horus, the third eye in Hinduism. Like all of this that is the difference. You measure two different sounds coming in your ear. That's how you know how far away something is. You measure two different distances with your eyes. That's how you know how far away something is. You can't perceive stuff without it. And both of them use the golden ratio, ironically.
Yeah,
but that's something. The reason why you're not this is because there has to be something that's comparing. The thing that's comparing is that middle third eye. It's the middle person. It's the central thing is the one saying, okay, that tree's leaves are green. If I just had these two measurements, I was like, okay, it could be some sort of thing, like you're just getting two different data points. Something has to be in the middle that says, okay, the mixing of these two makes green. And that means that the tree is blooming because it's spring. So you get all of this recursive meaning from looking at something like that. If it's dead outside, there's no trees, you're like, okay, clearly we're in winter. but like no one stops and thinks like the line of reasoning that goes through, because we just experience it every day. It's just like a thing. We're just walking around in life like, okay, well, obviously it's winter. We're in the, these are seasons. But you can recursively go back through here. Why do we have seasons? Because the planet has this axial tilt that was shown on this Egyptian temple that they somehow knew. Like, there's so many things that you can go back to, but like most people, and these are the points of my punchy videos, is like, you don't know how much you're actually not getting from just a general boring experience of reality. There's so much stuff that you're just taking, like we do with the AI and technology in grocery stores. We're taking it for advantage. We're taking all of this advantage of it because we don't know what to do with ourselves. We don't know the internal thing. We don't know why we're here. We don't know. The purpose has been removed from like 90% of people. You're just like, okay, what job do I do so I can afford food?
Right.
Well, what if that was like unimportant? That's like the main question. Like, what would you do that would make you feel like you're actually doing something if that was not the thing?
Right.
And that's where that observer comes in. Is like you need that central site, and you need that perspective to be able to navigate this world. And that's where esoterics and Gnosticism and all of these things come in. Is like they were analyzing that. Why are we not analyzing that? Why is that thousands of years old and no one's doing that today? We're supremely focused on making the most efficient thing like this that uses the flower of life for the transmission pattern. And, and why are we doing that? Why are we doing that? And not like internally contemplating like, okay, where are we going? Why is every culture that was talking about this stuff more focused on reincarnation and other worlds, and why were they not as focused on this world as we are? Like, there are so many questions that just get completely masked by the day-to-day like triviality of everything.
We have forgotten the why. We have such a stranglehold on the what and the how, and barely the when, but the why is completely out the window. And a brilliant author, Wolfgang Smith, talks about the scientific revolution and how we shrunk reality down to one layer so that the customer, being the rich, would be satiated by scientists. So science became a business to feed the kids. And you put it all into this little compartmentalized box, and you say, we've understood this so well now that anything outside of this is going to be just too confusing, and we're going to lose our customer, and that was kind of the idea. Is science became a business, and what business does is cut corners in order to still keep the customer and bring the product, But speaking of work, I got to ask you this. I should have a long time ago because we're getting carried away. But tell me, what's the newest front that you are currently working on? What's the newest discovery? And if you would share your screen, I want to see some nuggets. I want to see some visuals.
Okay. I promised you some stuff. Let me get this.
I can't wait because I almost see it to see it live and pick your brain about it, because I watch your shorts multiple in a row. Like whenever I watch your shorts, I'm not letting the algorithm bring them to me. I go to your page and I go through and I catch what I missed. And there's parts where I yell through the phone, and be like, "Hey, go back a second. I want to see that again."
Well, that's why. Yeah. So I told you that I'm working on a whole. It's more of it's not really a theory. It's more of like what I've been the conclusions I've been coming to with all of this stuff. And this is just like my general grab bag of images that I create, like most of my comparisons and everything you see in my videos. I genuinely make all of these things. And so here's a lot of like the newer ones that I've been working on. But I also, so this is in the community that I was talking to you about. And like a lot of this, oh shoot. Did that switch? You still got me?
I still have you. I'm just kind of looking at them too, because I'm remembering like, so that gray one right there where you said that looks like a photovoltaic a chip that absorbs sunlight, like that, and that's inside of our calculator to make it. And then so that caused me to look up about this temple and the way it uses water. So I wanted to look at the mythology of it. And they talk about this being a temple of the sun. and it's gonna basically take in what they called it God, you know, and then it's gonna that God's expression works through it in order to bring more life force and essence into the people. So it's like you see this and you're like, that's photovoltaic, and then the mythology says, well, it's absorbing God and giving it to us, and I'm like, bro,
Same
like
shit.
same shit. That blew my fucking brain off. I had whiplash after I saw that shit, dude. And it's gigantic.
Yeah. No, these are bigger. So the main temple of Angkor Wat, I have another one in here that shows how many you can fit, I think, in it. So like if you take this little part right here, the central part, this is Angkor Wat. Like that's the whole the largest temple in this complex. You can fit 7 of them across this little, what I think is that, you know, either photovoltaic or piezoelectric strip, because when you look at all this stuff, it's like, I mean, it's the same pattern. We had to learn this in engineering. I'm like, I see this stuff and I'm like, duh. You know, it's not the whiplash you get is kind of more like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me, just because it's like that clicks in my head. Those shapes, patterns are making sense to my engineering brain. Right. So I have another. Where did this go?
There's also no other way that makes sense. That's not feng shui. That's not efficient living. That's not an office ergonomic shape.
No.
Like,
this is the blown up version of of that same chip. It's not an accident that the walls are in the same. You can't tell me that they could have made these walls different sizes. They could have made this interior temple over here. You know, there's a reason why the ratio and the corners and the walls and all of this stuff line up. Like you can't fake this. And I have hundreds of examples of this. That's the problem. Is you can argue with me all day, but I can.
One example would be astounding. But you've got.
But look, this is the newest one. This is a warship radar. It's an omnipresent warship radar. It's called a phased array antenna, and I'll show you this. This is what it is: cylindrical phase array. They put this on the top of warships for their radars. It can read a whole bunch of different signals, right?
Right.
Well, what the fuck were the Hindu temples doing? Yeah. You know, there was the same thing. They were trying to connect to this omnipresent being, and this is on the main part of the temple. This is the central part of the temple. And when you put them next to each other, like we just put a little covering over it, but inside this is the same fucking thing, dude. Like it's the same thing. So we're connecting, isn't it? Like, and the biological motor one got me too.
It's in the air. It's in the air. It's up. It's on top of a building, and that's
the same spot.
Same spot. Same everything, dude. Like, you know, if you shuffle a deck of cards, you're gonna get a different deck every single time, and that goes on. I don't know, but it's almost like it's incomprehensible how. So like if there's a square right here and then there's a square over there, okay, you might be like, they both did squares, but squares are a fundamental shape, so it's not crazy. But whenever it's not only a square, but the ratios are similar, the layout is similar, from the top it's similar, from the side it's similar, and then what they said it did in the oral tradition is a religious almost rendition of the words, the terminology we use today. At a certain point, we shuffled a deck of cards, and it's the same deck of cards twice at astronomical chances of that being coincidence. At a certain point, you can't have that. And
there's no coincidences. I'm fully convinced. So like the main thing I'm trying to like come across here, and this is like the ethos of this new work I'm going on, and why the next book is going to take so long, is quantifiably showing how things like Angkor Wat and things like these places that line up perfectly with the architecture of these chips. Okay, what is your first question when I show you this stuff? It's why is it exactly the same, you know? And you scratch the surface of it there, and to me it's seeing how much consciousness we can shove into a creature to generate this experience of learning about the world, this world at least. And
Yeah.
I think we're not alone in the universe. I think this gets replicated on other worlds and stable climates and environments and stuff. But what I want to do is, so like this is the Osirian. You know what the Osirian is?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So this layout is exactly, when I saw it, I was like, this is exactly what this is. This is I made a still post about it, but
Right.
it's a resonator. It's a microacoustic resonator.
Yeah.
And the fact that all of these temples and stuff are tuned to this resonance, and we tune, electricity and stuff to a specific resonance. That's how your computer works. Is the gates and stuff are tuned to a voltage and a frequency, and that allows your computer to work and me to see you when we're states away.
Right.
This stuff, like the spoon analogy, if we're using our technology at this scale to communicate that distance, this technology at that scale communicates at an even greater distance.
Right.
So quantifiably mapping this stuff out is the next mission of mine to add another layer of proof to this. And the way I'm doing this is, one, making these things, right? But like I have a whole nother like I have a different way of reading hieroglyphs, like pretty much completely throughout the original explanation. And this is in Karnak.
If I might fill you in there, because I just got done watching one of your videos where you say people think hieroglyphs are just the simplest form of language because they think they're pictograms, but they're not. These are blueprint layouts of instructions meant to transcend time. So if they had phonetics, we would have to go through the trouble of having some kind of Rosetta Stone. But what they're doing here is almost like an interactive instructional diagram, because all of these things, they're not only symbolic, but they're also literal. And a lot of people can't wrap their head around something being both allegory and literal at the same time. So like the Ankh seems to be a literal plasma, whereas the bird is going to represent something of a mercurial figure. Yeah.
So one very important distinction that I've been trying to communicate here, and this is not, these are not my words. I went to Egypt and I talked to a whole bunch of people about this. The translation that we have for hieroglyphs is from the Rosetta Stone. That's what it is. It's Greek to Egyptian hieroglyphs. That's how we know somehow how to read them. The Greeks at the time of writing this, nobody knew how to read hieroglyphs. Even the Egyptians did not know how to. This is the Greeks' best guess at what this meant. And it's our best guess at translating their best guess at what it was. There is no direct translation of hieroglyphs anywhere because no one knows how to speak them. That is a lost language. It is still a lost language. We're doing our best to kind of make sense of it. The Greeks only knew about this because they were allowed in the temples with the temple priests. But they were only going to give the Greeks a certain amount of information. They were not going to give them the deepest secrets of their culture. That'd be like America giving away its book of secrets. They're not going to do that. So we have a scratch and sniff version of what the actual product would be.
Yeah.
And so what I've done is I kind of use the mainstream a little bit to almost counteract the narrative. But my version of translating this is wildly different. It's kind of similar because it is in some ways like a picture book looking at these things. They designed it in a way for it to be consumable, the easiest way to consume, but only if you were getting taught. So if you were going through a temple, you would obviously be like escorted through the temple by a priest, and they would explain what's going on here. And eventually you could understand what's on the temple walls without the escort, right? So what I'm trying to do is basically take that and reverse it and put it onto the internet. So if I unlock a certain aspect of this, then someone else looking at this can unlock another aspect of this, because we're at this point, we don't have the resource to completely untangle what's going on here. So we need a bunch of different perspectives from people. And in my opinion, people that are, I would say, I believe in reincarnation. But I think a lot of people from that time are coming back. And I think there's a lot of capabilities that they have that if I can unlock something, they can unlock something, someone else can unlock something, we can fully unlock the translation. So So I'm using a lot of the Egyptian stuff because they were focused on mapping consciousness and mapping these behaviors and mapping out what this does. I'm using that in conjunction with a whole bunch of other cultures analysis to kind of decrypt the entire schematic of their conscious circuitry. And so
Yeah.
I want to be able to actually prove this is a real thing, and that's the next phase in my, I guess, career, you could say. And to do that, go ahead.
Well, you just brought something to my mind that I've never thought of before, but of course it makes sense that why would the Rosetta Stone be an end-all authority on hieroglyphs when it was written by Greek people? If hieroglyphics were forgotten, even to Egyptians, then to Greeks it's going to be a best guess, and then to us today is going to be, we're going to see emojis for all, but having a cerebral hygiene going into it would be of utmost handiness, because now you're not biased by someone else's educated guess, so to speak.
Okay, you're totally correct here, and I'm going to give you a couple more nuggets because this is like super important. I'm gonna have to go to Cryptex for this. I'll give you a little preview of what I'm gonna send you.
Exclusive.
So there are ways to read this, and it's you have to remove our modern conception of how to do this entirely from your mind and start with a blank slate, because when you're looking at these things, there's codes, and the codes are in cymatic form. And what I mean by that is they're hidden in places that you wouldn't normally see from if you're like an invader or a visitor and the priest is trying to explain to you like the basics of it. He's going to show you that this picture means this, and he's going to tell you it's kind of like your concept of the ether, like he's going to say that. But what he's not going to show you is what these things are actually doing. And what these things are actually doing, for example, the Egyptian pillar, you're looking at the Egyptian pillar wrong. The Egyptian pillar, it looks like this from the outside. It looks like a, just decorative thing. But flip it up and look like you're looking into it, like from the pillar itself centrally. Then you have the same mandala structure as the Hindu temples, which is the exact same structure as the cymatic pattern. So it's giving you.
About the Jed pillar?
No, I'm talking about a regular pillar in Egyptian temples.
Oh, okay. With
the Jed pillar. Yeah, Jed pillar is a reference to magnetism, and it's basically the magnetic axis of the Earth, is from my understanding of it, and I can symbolically prove that. But these are what's very interesting to me, is because each one of these contains, like, it's written on the column itself, and this is from my trip in Egypt. You'll see this is Esna Temple. It's like they got the most beautifully preserved pillars in all of Egypt. They're still painted. That's the original paint.
What should I be seeing right now? Because right now I'm seeing Cryptex screen.
Hold on. Here we go. Sorry.
Oh, good. Yeah.
I shared the
That's
wrong
why
page.
I was asking if it was a Jed pillar or not.
Got you. Let me switch the page here.
I lost audio on you.
There we go. Am I good?
Okay.
Audio good? Audio good?
Oh, did you turn off your mic?
Maybe. Hold on.
Do you guys have audio in the chat?
Can you hear me?
Let me know, guys, in the chat if you guys have audio. Howard 888 says I can hear him. We can hear him. I can't hear you though. Uh-oh.
You're the problem.
Damn. Okay. In the chat, they're saying, can you hear me? He can't hear me, can he?
I can hear you. I can.
Oh, you can? Is there anything you can think of on your end where I might not be able to hear you? Oh, man. Can you make a noise and like any noise now?
You good?
No. Okay.
Right.
Man,
Settings
I
and
don't
switch your mic.
know. I have no audio.
Hmm.
Can you do the thing you did earlier where you leave and come back? Because yeah, I couldn't hear you earlier, and then you left and came back. Thanks, Jen G says I'll take notes for you. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what's going on, but if I can't hear them, then you know, I guess some of you are getting an echo too. Someday soon, I'm going to be more travelable, and I'm going to bring these guys into my house to have them in person. You know. All right, so
Got it.
how about now?
Yes, audio.
Dude, I have no. There's no
Hold on.
audio.
Try.
Edit mic settings. Shit. Man, should we do a two-parter? And I can bring you. We can start over, and then we can start off with the screen sharing thing, and just have two of them. But
Up to you.
I know you guys can hear them, but if I can't hear them, then I mean, what are we doing? Can you try bring your screen share back on maybe and see if that engages anything?
Help? Nothing? Anything?
Hey man, I wonder if you should call me on the phone. I don't know. Hold on. But still, there's still no audio.
Weird. Yeah, here.
It's like we just got into the good shit too.
I know. Call.
All right, hold on. Yeah, hold on. Hello.
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Did I lose it on the stream though?
No, I
might have
mean,
went to my.
so all right. This is kind of this might be fun actually.
Yeah.
I can hear you now, and I can be on the phone with you. Can you guys tell me if you can hear me and him at the same time?
We're audio's good? It looks like it's good from my end.
Yeah, and they're saying they can hear you too. For whatever reason, I can't hear you, but I've got your screen share, and
all right, bet.
Let's go. All right, tell me about this thing.
All right. I'm gonna run this back because I didn't know that I was sharing the different thing.
All right.
So when you're looking at these Egyptian pillars, this is what I was saying before. This is what they look like in the actual temple. But you're looking at it wrong. You're supposed to look at it as if you were inside the pillar from the center. So this becomes what you actually see. It becomes similar to like the mandalas in the Hindu temples.
Yeah.
Each one, and this is Esna. Each one has a different pattern, and from the outside, you just looks like papyrus and cool leaves and this awesome pattern. And
right,
you're not gonna know unless someone shows you how to properly look. And this is what I was saying. You're supposed to look at it like this, and it becomes your cymatic. So each one of these has, and you'll see it. All of these are different. It's acting as more of an access code to the information contained on the walls. But you get it in a way that's experiential instead of me explaining it to you word for word, line by line.
Right.
The limits of language are what's holding everything back. We don't have words for specific things. Like anyone who's had a child or gone through a very tough experience, like you can't describe it in words. It's just like happens to you.
Right.
And this is the term gnosis, right?
Right.
And so what we're trying to do here is decode the gnosis from the temples. And this is what I've been working on heavily. There's little clues and codes on how to do this. And
Mm-hmm.
these can be translated. And what we need is a way to access, like we are essentially the router for this information. We need a way to repeatedly access the same information in the same state, but from an individual perspective. So once you hit it and I hit it, then we compare notes because we say the same thing. That would validate that concept, right? So what I'm trying to do is essentially decode, decrypt what these things are and how to properly access them, and then broadly test this in a way that's scientifically verifiable, so that I can actually have some proof about what's going on here. So that's my main thing. But to do this, you really have to kind of understand a lot of everything else that's going on, which is why I put all of this stuff in Cryptex. Is I can give you a broad shotgun approach of everything in these temples, like the how they're phi scaling this, how they're bringing this down from a very high perspective down to your perspective. They're infusing it in every aspect of the geometry that you're seeing. So it's subtle, but it's very effective. It's an effective way to visually synchronize yourself with the same frequency of what's going on here without you even knowing it. Because if I told you what's going on here, and you're completely new to this information, you're going to immediately have a like preconceived notion that this is all bullshit. It's all mythical magic, and this isn't real. But if I don't tell you and I give you the experience first, then it requires you to be like, holy shit, what was that? What did I just go through? Like, please explain to me, because that was the most transformative experience of my life. Like, that is what they were doing. And so my whole work with Cryptex is giving like the tools of if you went through one of these experiences, how to put meaning to it. And there's a lot of things like I'm sure you've seen the video, like the magnetism concepts and the pillars, and like all of the things that are non-verbally communicated. That is the language that they speak, and it's very hard to show you that that's the language that they speak without you experiencing it yourself. And that's the limits of my book. That's the limits of me teaching. That's the limits of all of humanity. And the core problem that we're encountering is the experience that they were giving you is something that is so wildly outside the realm of our experience that to most people it just seems like it's a it's a pretty picture, it's pretty art, or they did this because they liked the acanthus leaf that was growing outside the temple. Like, no, it's bullshit. There's a reason why you're seeing it. There's a code in there, and you need to learn how to read the language that they were speaking.
What I think is amazing is that if the universe itself could speak, it wouldn't be speaking English. It's not going to come through with a vocabulary that's definable, that of a language that we made up. It would speak in this way, and these these shapes, this phi ratio within these pillars, are almost as if like people would say the phi ratio is pleasing to the eye, and that's why they did it like that. But it's almost more like they're bringing the temple to life, because they observed that this phi ratio thing, they're looking at their hands, they're looking at sunflowers, they're looking at
Yeah.
everything, the stars. They're seeing that the layout of everything that's alive and living has taken on this form. So if it's almost like an external alchemy, if you can take stone, which is considered to be the most dead of matter, the mineral world,
Yeah.
that's meant to be saved and brought back to life, and you bring it this geometric life form of like platonic realm infused into its very shape, its context, well, then all of a sudden the ancient texts and the Vedas start to make more sense, because they said that the living God of all that is infused into the temple. And some of the like in the Vedas, it says the temple
The,
is the
is the god.
extension of the
Yeah.
gods, right?
It's the body of the god. That's what, yeah, I think is the translations are hard. My Hindi is not that great, and my Sanskrit, but the I'll show you what I'm trying to do here. So like that is the basic core concept, and I have one more book that's coming out
Yeah.
this year, and I'm working with some of the guys that I use for Cymatics content and in describing this. But I'm building a library of these symbols and frequencies, and this is a very very basic rough draft. But this is kind of how I organize my stuff. This is kind of how I make my content and use the comparisons. Like if I find one, I make it a big one, and then like I've been using this. But for example, this is the Hindu one that I pull on
Well,
all the time.
I think I'm looking at the wrong screen again.
God damn it.
I got you, bro.
It keeps opening a different. I'm gonna see if I can open this here. I click on it and it opens a different one. I'm gonna switch to.
In a minute, I want to bug you to go back to the first page because I saw the one from you I've never seen before, where it's it looks like the Nagas over the dude's head with the 7 like snakes or whatever.
All right, you got this on. Yeah. So this is the is it showing? Yeah. So this is what I've been building on a lot of these. Some of them are mine, some of them are other creators. Like this isn't going to get published. This is just kind of for your thing. But yeah, most of this is what I use to compare, and I can just slap these things over and see how close they are. You know? So it's very useful for me to do those overlays like that you were talking about. Like this one is perfect, like Flower of Life.
Wow.
Stuff. And like so
I didn't even realize that was 2 images until you said it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what I like, a lot of people don't know that I make like 90% of the stuff that's actually, on my stuff that is comparative. I do all of that. And so whenever I find one, I put them in a larger one, and then I use it for graphics and stuff like that. But this has been an ongoing project for me, and cataloging these, like this is what I was telling you about, the Hindu temple. So these are like, it's too close to be anything but the pattern, right? Yeah. And so to the outside observer, you see this and you're like, oh, this is a pretty flower. Like, please fucking tell me where you've ever seen this flower. Like, I guarantee it looks similar to one, but there's more information encoded in this design than the average casual observer is willing to admit. And I can show you this in the Mayan calendar, the Aztec art, everything that you pretty much see in ancient historic symbolism, from cathedral rose windows to the Florence Cathedral. This is
wow.
This one is, the layers are exactly in the this frequency is, I can't remember who did this one, but it's the exact this is phi ratio.
So okay,
so it's not only
is the creation of some of these units of art meant to represent that specific frequency, or did this art that they created, these temples that they created, become because we're naturally creating from source in this way?
I think it's a two-way street there. I think it's both. Like I think that it's the design is the inspiration, but the inspiration is also the design, because you can't really that's like the linguistic problem. Like having to describe something to you means that there's a whole concept of having to experience it first. It was an experience before it was language, and it was an experience before it was codified into this world. And so doing this is kind of like the shorthand way, or like the emoji form of what the information actually is, right? So there, you can get really granular with this. Like there's I explain what these all mean, like the how to make the spiral ones. Like this is these, you could do a singular direction, you can do an omnidirection, like it makes the torus, top down version of the torus. There's ways to create this sonically, and this is from my experiments in sound. But once you start to realize how to create these patterns, then there's a mechanics behind creating the frequencies. And then I kind of go into how these things get actually created, and I've made a bunch of videos on this, but these are just ones that I find that are new and cool, and I think they could have a symbol. And then I categorize them into fold symmetry, like 6-fold symmetry and all this stuff. So I'm building essentially a library or a dictionary of these things that I don't necessarily know how to read them myself. I know what I can place them with a particular pattern, but using these things to access that specific information is going to be a monumental task. So that's where I'm like, here's this thing. This is, this is the physics and mechanics of how it works in our world. how do we use this to access their world? How do we gain access to that
Yeah.
multi-dimensional internet?
There's something about the six pointed star that reemerges in just about everything, and not
Mhm.
just the sacred geometry, but like the I Ching is a book of pentagrams, and
Yeah,
you throw three pennies, and then those three pennies have a particular a number of combinations they can land at that all reside as pentagrams. And Carl Jung is wrote a bunch about the I Ching, and he said what you just said in kind of different terms, but he was like, I don't know how it's happening, but there's something about the six-fold shape, the hexagram, that allows pre-extant notion, some kind of like other side, to leak into our reality in a way that we can't seem to explain with logic or with words,
yeah,
because we throw these pennies and then it creates a hexagram. It's not literally a hexagram. It's a like a pseudo hexagram. It's like
hmm
the information that would create one, and then you open the book and you find the hexagram that your pennies had dropped, and for whatever reason, dude, it tells you about your current situation and what
yeah.
to expect in the future in such a way that you can bend it and mold it
Uh-huh.
to whatever it is that you're doing. And he's like, this doesn't work with seven, it doesn't work with five. He's like, the number six, for whatever reason, is what brings the dynamo of pre-existence into our reality. And here they've done it in stone. And even today, you've seen crop circles. Like, this information is coded into some of those crop circles.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm gonna pull this up. I'm gonna switch my thing back to cryptex because I have a
All
really good
right.
explanation for what is actually going on here.
And then there's one
So
on top of Saturn, dude. Like,
yeah, I know.
what's up with the
So
six?
that's
Beehives even.
that's that's a good. It's a good question because I have like this entire section on the hexagram here.
Yeah.
The hexagram, if you're not musically inclined, is one of the most efficient ways of organizing the keys in music as well.
Hmm.
And I explain this in two ways: music and light. Because in light, this is how you harmonically mix colors. So harmonically mixing colors and music is a requirement to have beauty, right? To have things that make sense. But to do that, you use a hexagram. And the
Yeah.
philosophical notion behind this is you're merging, the higher realm with the lower realm, and the shape to do that is the hexagram. So you have threes. You have the general concept of the three, like Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, all that stuff.
Right.
But like
Primary
you need
colors.
three. Yeah. So my logo, for example, the triangle with the eye in it, because that's how you perceive. So when we were talking earlier about how to measure colors, so let's look at the triangle here. If I'm measuring the blue and the red, the merger of those blue and red is going to be yellow. So that's what I'm going to see with my center sight, right? Like
Right.
I'm probably butchering that, but the triangle represents that centered sight because you're focusing in on a point that is between two ends of the spectrum. And so if we merge that, the higher realms, the unseen, the world of vibration, with the lower physical realms of matter and material, then you have the shape that combines both of those and makes sense of them from the center sight. So that's
Yeah.
the philosophical backing behind it. But the places you're going to see it, like in music and in nature and everything, is like from every spiritual tradition they also used it, and I cover
Hmm.
all that in this as well. But it's also a fractal shape. It's also a shape that has no beginning or no end. You can consistently create it, like the pentagram. That's why it's been used in all the spiritual traditions.
Right.
So this thing goes so much deeper than just being like, oh, this is a cool little
Right.
shape. You have even this one. You have the Merkaba. The that's an Egyptian word too. Merkaba is the
Ah.
vehicle of light. That's what it actually means, literally
Yeah.
translated. And then you have the unicursal hexagram, which encodes the central dimensions of the King's Chamber and the Great Pyramid. So
Really?
yeah, so this is a two square. The unicursal
Man,
hexagram
I
is when
wonder if
you
Bring Me the Horizon even knows that that's.
probably not. There's a lot of things that come through artists that they just don't know why it is, but they know they need to put it out, and I love art in that sense.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, but that's exactly. So if you see this one, that's kind of denoting the fusion of the hexagram into the material world, and that's what the king's chamber is essentially representing. Is this two square shape is also the shape of the torus, and it's also the shape of the vesica. It emerges from the unification of the higher realms with the lower realms, essentially,
Yeah.
philosophically, physically, and mathematically. It's all one. It just merges all in one thing.
I can't help but be reminded too that the best way to measure something is to triangulate it. So you
Mm-hmm.
can, measure something from here and from here, but you don't
Yeah,
get a full-bodied schematic of it unless there's a third party
yeah,
angle. And then from that, you can literally map out every
anything.
corner of something because it's been triangulated. It's like the first shape is it's becomes and then by having that another of that shape, which is the triangle upside down inverted into it, you're showing that okay, we have three dimensions here, there's three dimensions here, and when they merge there's a third, A and B come together, it creates a third.
Well, the reason why graphics are so good, with graphics cards, they create triangles. Everything is triangles in graphics. I don't care if you see a curve or a square or any geometric shape.
Really?
If you zoom in far enough, yeah, I'll show you that. Like, how are triangles used in computer graphics? Fundamental building block of 3D computer graphics. Construct,
No
render, and
shit.
animate 3D models efficiently. You can't do it without triangles. There's no circles, there's no curves ever in any digital thing that you see. It's going to be a triangle. Is if you can zoom down far enough, you're going to see a
Yeah.
triangle. So it
Yeah.
is, yeah, it
It's
is a
fundamental.
fundamental, yeah, there's a
Yeah.
fundamental aspect of it.
Well, so what's up with fucking seven? Like every so Pythagoras was obsessed with it. Religions, I know that chakras, whatever, but I cannot read a piece of mythology without the oral tradition being like there was seven of them. There was seven cities
Yeah.
of giants
Mhm.
under the pyramids in Mexico. From what I know, Pythagoras liked it because three was divine and four was human or matter or whatever, and the
Yeah.
combination of three and four is seven. But that doesn't account for, I mean, everything in mythology is sevens. Bible, like
No, and that's so you kind of have to look at it as an abstract way. We'll walk through this. So like one is the all. Then we go into two, which is duality, right? And then we have
right,
three, which is the triangulation. It's the central eye. We have four, which is related to the physical world, the cube. And then we have five, which is the pentagram, microcosm. Six, macrocosm. Seven
right,
is universally a law-giving number. It is
okay,
it is a and that's like the most abstract way I can pull out of it is it's just the law. It's like, seven hermetic principles, what we're saying here.
right,
Seven sages, all this stuff. Whenever you hear the number, it's a rule giving number, and to me, it's more of a like it's the framework. It's like the dimension of framework. Nothing. If we're speaking dimensionally of it, we have third dimension of space, fourth dimension of time, fifth dimension of like intellect, sixth dimension of feeling, which gives meaning to the intellect of the
hmm,
analysis of it. But you can't do any of that without an architectural, with like rules. If football doesn't have rules, then it's not football. It's people killing each other on the field. Like
right,
there's chaos. Everything is chaos without the boundaries of this seven, and I think it's that way because it's an indivisible number. Like
yeah,
you can't break it down any further. It has to be what it is. It has to be seven, because then we go into eight, and you're like, okay, this is two squares can interlock. It's symmetrical. Seven isn't. It just doesn't. It
right,
doesn't fit in. It doesn't fit in with anything. So I think there's like a mix of different analysis, like esoteric analysis of seven. But from my like the depths of my research, it's kind of a requirement to have a reality. It's like the things that must be there for this experience.
yeah. This seven is almost like the reason it becomes that law providing number and shape is because it is the coherence of two
Yeah.
different worlds being combined, you know, the triangle and the
Hmm.
square, heaven and earth, which is, I mean, that's like the oldest uh mythology of any of these temples, is to bring heaven down to
Yep.
earth. And then that makes sense, as above so below, that
Hmm.
human beings, even though if we stretch out, we are like the five, you know, like the Vitruvian Da
Yeah.
Vinci man, you know, five pointed star. But the way that our like nodes or chakras or whatever favorite word for it is, seven of them, because there has to be a center. There's
Hmm.
three down here, there's three up here, and then in the center there's the one, which is the
Yeah.
communicator between all of them. And that would remind us of, like, say, you know, mercurial figures like Thoth, Hermes, Enoch, these people who were scribes of heaven. They were intermediaries between us and the heavens. Well, they would speak from the heart. Like, for example, like Thoth had the emerald tablets, and the emerald tablet is green. And
Yeah.
green, as you just showed, what is the center of the color wheel, no matter which way you turn it. And then it so happens that in the Hindu tradition, the heart chakra is green, and people think that's weird because the heart is like red, which it's not red.
Hmm.
It's but they gave it a green color, which is fascinating because that means that they either had knowledge of green being the center of everything, including the color wheel, and that became, because the emerald tablets in mythology, they say it's made of a substance, emerald, which is it can't be broken, it can't
Hmm.
be tangibly, and what that tells me is it's not something tangible, it's
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
within. That's why, you know, people get mad when they talk about the emerald tablets. They're like, those are forgeries. You're like, dude, I know, but those also
Totally.
aren't the emerald tablets. That's not they were
Yeah.
talking about. They were speaking, it's information coming
From the
from
heart.
the heart, which is still misunderstood, you know.
Well, and it's interesting that, like, life on Earth. You think of life, you think of a planet that's alive. It's green. It also is the most
Yeah,
green. Green absorbs more sunlight than black. Like, that's just in physics. So it's
I
another
see.
thing. Like, it is the magnet. That color is the magnet for consciousness. Essentially,
Right,
if you're talking about the sun transforming, a dead planet into life, you have to have green there. There's no other.
right.
And that one, you're right. It's like right in the middle of the, like, seven is the only way to perfectly divide three high and three low. So
Right.
seven is the bridge of analysis for the six, right? So if we're using the hexagram, the six, to piece these two worlds together, then seven is that midpoint where you exist in it. You are in the middle of the high and the low. That's why man is the measure of the universe.
Right.
We are in the middle, perfectly in the middle of the quantum level and the galactic level. We sit right there. We sit in the
Yeah.
dead center of it. So that is us. That is the heart, and that is also the way that the sun transmits its information, essentially, that we consume through. That's how we get energy. We eat plants. We eat animals that eat plants. That's how we continue our existence here.
Yeah. How fucking crazy is it that the fine structure constant in physics is 1 over 137? Like, how do you, I mean, the synchronicities with that whole thing in the first place is nuts, because the guy who
Yeah.
discovered the fine structure constant died in room 137, and he wrote a letter to Carl Jung being like,
Yeah.
because they had been talking for years, Carl Jung and this dude, what was his name, they were best friends for I'm actually ordering a book soon of their letters to each other. But he was
Yeah.
dying in a room when he saw there was one room 137, he's like, I'm never leaving this place. He wrote that in the letter to Jung. He's like, I'm never
No
leaving.
way.
But so, like, we have this idea that, you know, we can't find matter in the subatomic particles no matter how much you zoom in. The quark, there's no
Yeah.
matter, there's no
It
solid
doesn't exist.
substance there. And we think that if a bunch of them clump together, eventually it becomes tangible matter, but that's not so. Any number multiplied by zero is still zero.
Yeah.
But the fine structure constant, which is 137, which is the ratio of light to magnetism, and it requires that ratio of 1 37 with light and magnetism to cohere, but then once it's observed, it becomes tangible matter. And that's
Yeah.
the specific number required for anything to
To
exist. And
exist. Yeah.
dude, so this is how non-form becomes form. This is how plasma
Yeah.
creates dust. This is
Yeah.
theoretically how suns create planets. And why? It's like, why is it so? And what's crazy about 137 is it's fundamental. It's
Yeah.
it doesn't derive from first principles. It's already that before
Yeah.
any numerical sequence. Dude, certain
I know
shit.
this is why it's yeah, the synchronicities with all of this stuff is what really we're going back to why I'd still do this is because shit like that keeps happening. Like I thought one or two were a cool coincidence and it's fun as like a little thing to study, you know. But like when it consistently happens to you and you consistently encounter stuff like this, it's like almost an addicting feeling. I tell everybody I'm a drug dealer and I deal in epiphanies because like that shit happens to me on like a daily basis still, and I can't make videos fast enough. I can't write books fast enough, so I have
Right.
like huge backlogs of stuff because like all of
Yeah.
this I don't know. I don't know how to properly connect everything because it all connects. Like I would be making a
Right.
documentary that lasts my entire lifetime if I were to do this. So
Right.
there's certain information like that you wouldn't really encounter unless you're a physics student. You know, find structure constant. Most people haven't even heard of that. Like,
Right.
but most people barely hear about the golden ratio and like and stuff like this and how it ties into numerology and the division of numbers and like where we get that division of numbers and all of this stuff is like you can argue all day that this is an arbitrary it's an arbitrary thing like words mean certain things but like magnetism for example there's the origin of magnetism is from the magi in Persia which is Iran right now and
Okay.
what they were doing was studying the effects of forces that were unseen and they were working with unseen forces and people called that magic and when they
Right.
called that magic then the name for magnetism gave its roots to it because it was an invisible force that looked like someone had magical powers and so
Yeah.
you trace etymology back and it's not random words it's not just because it's English English is a synthesis. English is the internet of language. It pulls from everything. So
Right.
there's roots that come from different cultures that you have to trace all this stuff back. And once you do that, it becomes very apparent that yeah, there are no coincidences. It's not 137 for no reason. It's
Yeah.
that ratio is there and it exists, and you should be very curious why it's that way.
Right. Dude, it's just it's crazy that it's a fundamental because some of the fundamentals seem like they would have an explainable cause in order to get to that fundamental. And it
Mhm.
almost tortures me that fundamentals exist because to have a thing that most certainly is and
Yeah.
not have a traceable because where it exists it seems like it came from something but it didn't. It was
Mhm.
already a fundamental. So like at a certain point you're like, okay, Muhammad Ali, they ask him why he believes in God and he picks up a glass of water on the table and he was like, if you set this glass of water down in front of me and said, hey, this was found in nature, no human made this cup, it emerged from nature naturally, he'd be like, I'm a fool, I'd be a fool to believe that. But then at the same time we have these things we consider fundamental, which he didn't use that word, but he was saying like
Mhm.
his example was the cardiovascular system. I know there's better
Yeah.
examples, but that's just one example of how that is so much more complicated than a glass of water, and we are told that that emerged from nature naturally. And if we take the fundamentals and put them together, you have this you could put so gravity, the fine structure constant, phi ratio, pi. These are all fundamentals that seem like they would have a first principle to get to that point, but they don't. They are the first
They
thing,
just
and
are.
they were all the first thing at the same time at once. They say the Big Bang happened, and the fundamentals immediately existed. It sounds to me like
Yeah.
more of a creation, more of a,
Yeah.
you
Trace that
know,
one back. How are we not tracing that one back? Like they it's a good quote. It says, science says, give me one miracle and I'll explain the rest. And that's like Big Bang or whatever the fuck. Like,
right.
okay, but that's the fundamental for them. Like, you got to explain that fundamental before you start explaining everything else. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
we can put math to it, we can put an explanation to it, but like most people stop there, and that's kind of like where I try and focus a lot on that, because it's, if you stop there, it really limits your experience of life. If you stop at
Yeah.
just accepting that that is a fundamental, it limits your experience here.
Yeah.
And I
I
want
get
to,
pissed off at Brian Greene because he's famous for, well, I was famous for it, but like somebody asked him what was going on before the Big Bang. And he directly he goes, that's actually a bad question. And that's how he answered it. And it's almost, and I get what he means. What he's trying to, what that sentence means essentially in a responsible way is what he's trying to say is the language is not going to
yeah,
traverse. I get
it
that.
doesn't, yeah,
But to say that's actually a bad question in a trade where you're supposed to, there are no stupid questions. That's what that is fundamental to science, is to say there are no stupid questions. Because
yeah,
Carl Sagan was famous for saying, you know, who asked the right questions is children. They say, why is the sky blue? Why is grass green? Why is this that shape? And he's like, when all of a sudden they get to high school, and he's like,
it
all
stopped.
those questions went away. He's like, all of the exciting questions went away because now we've made this mistake that we've named the fundamental, and now that it has a name, we use
It's
it as
just
an
the fundamental.
explanation for everything else without having first understood that, which is crazy because I don't believe my shoe is on my foot. I know it is, you
Yeah.
know, but there's a fundamental there that for the first principles to be that way, and I think there's 7 of them right after the Big Bang, is way too extraordinary, you know? And the fundamentals are irrational numbers.
Yeah.
How,
They're
why
infinite
did they
irrational numbers.
choose that? You know?
Well,
Wait,
let's take that even further. If you're naming these constants, right? Like if we're naming the exponential growth factor, if we're naming the golden ratio, fine structure constant, all this stuff, like if we're naming these, then how about that is an entire concept. It's a giant concept. You can probably, you know, extrapolate this to the entire universe. Golden ratio throughout the entire universe, right? Huge concept. Many examples, many different facets of its use, many different examples of its use, right? So if we're naming that the golden ratio, what's to say that, and this goes back to our translations of the stuff, what's to say the deities in this, in their cosmology and their ways of thinking, were not these same constants? What's to say those things
okay.
were not the things housing all of this information? We call it the golden ratio. Maybe they called it Ra. Maybe they called it
Yeah.
the Ma'at. Maybe that was the order. Ma'at was the structure of the fine structure constant, keeping everything together exactly how they explain it in the fucking text. Like,
Yeah.
so making those parallels is another thing that like gets me going, because that makes sense to me. If you're teaching it that way and you're saying this personified version that looks like me, that that illustrates the connection of everything in the universe, that's easier for me to understand than this symbol in ancient Greek that has a number assigned to it that I have to watch on a
Yeah.
whiteboard. That's an inefficient way
Yeah.
of teaching. So their way of doing that seems to me to be more effective in a sense, right? But
It is
I got a
because you
little.
can,
I got a little. Oh yeah, go for it.
well, no, it could be, well, because you can say it to a child.
Yeah,
Personification can be told as a story.
yeah. But if you need to be at high school level to understand math and algebra and how that plugs in, right?
Right.
So I want to show you one thing real quick, because we glossed past it, and I found
Okay.
the explanation. I'm sharing my screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you see that?
I'm bringing it up. All right. Here we go.
Okay, to explain why this all works, we're explaining perception here and sacred geometry with your eyeball. So if you calculate the average diameter of the pupil, and because it grows and shrinks, right? But the average diameter of the pupil is the same. It will fit perfectly within the inner part of the hexagram. But
Okay.
this is only one portion of the hexagram. The only reason why you can see in proportion is because the golden ratio is inside your iris. The ratio of that one, that little eyeball, to the exterior, so this is going to be like where your eye ends, the corner of your eye. But
Okay.
to make that shape, to make that ratio, you need two other circles. So you
Yeah.
have the vesica, that I was saying before, which is how we define the experience here. And within two hexagrams of that creates the shape of your eye. It does not deviate from that. And the hexagram within that eye allows you to process the spectrum of colors, which is 7. And that
Yeah.
spectrum of colors is only perceptible because the golden ratio is in all of this. So that's
Dude.
when I say the connections here. So we're measuring total light and total darkness with this. When I say the connections are deeper than you think, you have no fucking idea how deep they
Yeah.
actually go. And that's why you have to. That's why I have to write books and I have to do this, because explaining this in any way that's other than it, highlighting how deep this actually goes seems like it's doing a disservice to explaining what the fucking hexagram is, right?
Yeah.
I have to make these connections in such a way that's like that completely shuts down your brain, and you're like, how do I defend this? What I learned in school is not this, but this makes
Right.
total sense. It makes more sense than when I learned it in school. So that's another way of my style that I think is really shocking. It's like getting, your whiplash is like, okay, I can't. It makes sense, and the science is actually proving this. Also, like,
Well,
too
okay.
many epiphanies at once.
So let me get this fucking straight. Hold up. Okay. We see phi ratio, the golden
Mean, yeah.
sequence in nature, and it's embedded, it's inherent to all living things, and that's clear. But and it's easy to be like, and it's also because it's the universe, it's also within us, sure, all that, right? But what you're showing here shows us that the reason we even see it that way in the first place is because the very fundamental of our perception is that same sequence. So what it's doing is identifying with itself. If
Yes,
our ratio, if our numerical in our eyes was different, our fucking universe, our reality would be different.
it would look different. It
So
would. The only reason why, and let's take this even further, because like the main two senses that you have are your sight and your sound. This is what your cochlea looks like. This is how you perceive sound.
right. So
These
okay, and
this is
there's phi ratio there. So
yeah.
our eyes and ears are taking reality, which is one thing, and turning it into two things, and it's bending it to that ratio. So when we observe reality, we're observing we are a phi ratio seeing itself and going, bro, what's up? It's been a
Yeah.
minute. We're like an old friend. It's seeing itself across the bar, and the only reason, and it detects it and it sees it as beauty because it's seeing itself.
Why do you think they say look within? Like, it's be still.
Yeah.
You got to go inside to see what's outside, and inside and outside are connected by one thing, and it's all these ratios and this math and everything. It's like if you are the universe experiencing itself, you are the mirror of that thing, right? This is the big
Yeah.
mirror, and you are the little mirror, and both of you are reflecting each other in real time. And
Right.
that's how we perceive it, is by all of this embedded geometry and all of this embedded math that's in you, that is also in there. And by recognizing that, you get a stronger connection with it, and you're able to have this, like, you can strip away the layers. You can strip
Yeah.
away the layers. You can see that this is vibration, everything is vibration, and then you're able to piece it together in your own head in a way that makes this reality beautiful, instead of going to work and getting your paycheck and buying
Fuck,
food.
dude. It so like
Is that crazy?
yeah. Well, that's
It's
the thing, is
insane.
it's not crazy. It's
No, it's not. It
self-evident.
makes sense. Yeah. It's crazy the way we think about it. The way we go about it normally is crazy. This is completely rational to me. The way I just explained it there, if I didn't know that and you explained it to me, I would be like, yeah, totally. That makes perfect sense. Especially after I showed you how like the colors and stuff, color and music are also blended by this.
Right.
Like, so if color and music are blended by this and the sacred geometry proves it, then why do I need any other explanation? Why do I need like the biology can explain the process in which it happens, but this explains the why. And that to me is important because I'm not an ear doctor. I'm not an eye doctor. I just want to know what the fuck is going on. And this is what's going on.
What's nuts is so like back to the sevens thing. There's 7 colors, and as you know in music, there's only 12 notes. They repeat the octaves, but there's 12 notes, just like there's 12 zodiacs, just like there's 12 brain cranials. But there's 12 notes don't work in music. Only 7 of them work. It's a scale, you know.
That's
so
the scale, yeah.
It's a color spectrum. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do is the color spectrum, but done with sound. They're the same thing, decoded differently depending on what sense you're using or what you're in the mood for. But it's a derivative of like, and it's not just half of it, because 12 is a even number, but it's not that 6 notes in the scale work. It's that 7 in the scale work, and that's 1.6. That's phi ratio right there. It's just a little bit more than half. It's almost like the universe. What's up?
No, the universe is fucking with you. Is what I'm saying.
Right. Well, it's the universe is like almost. It would be behaving itself in half if it was based in halves. Like this is half this is half that. But with the phi ratio of it being 7 out of 12 or 1.6 of a ratio, it's like it nudges over the half where it's past the tipping point, and then it nudges back over its own tipping point again, and then becomes this like pendulum that goes back and forth, and it keeps everything moving and evolving. It's they say that perpetual energy isn't real, but perpetuation is real, and it does happen.
Do you remember like this is why it was hard to explain like the law aspect of 7. You have a 12 note scale, but you have to pick 7 to play or it doesn't sound good. You have to give yourself rules to make a song. Right. If you go and use all 12 notes, it's going to sound like a garbled mess. Right. It's going to sound out of key. It's going to sound off because you're not picking the correct scale to make that specific song. Right. But the universe is one song. So we have to to perceive. We have to break it down into our specific set of rules, right? So I want to blow your mind one more time with this solfeggio frequencies. So you said do, re, mi, fa, sol. That's the ones I'm familiar scale, with.
Right?
Yeah. So that's exactly what it is, and we can map those to the chakras or whatever. Right. We're working in 7s here, but you want to know why it's like this?
Tell me.
Check this out. Let's do a phone keypad.
All right.
So the solfeggio frequencies are just linear combinations of this cube. So we'll go 147, 258, 369.
Okay.
Watch this.
What is about to happen right now?
So you have different combinations. Yeah, you have different combinations only within that square. So this one will probably be a little bit easier to understand because we're breaking it up like this. So 741, watch this.
Yeah. What the fuck, dude?
741 is a solfeggio frequency. 852 solfeggio. 963 solfeggio frequency.
Yeah.
All of these are just linear combinations of that. They're not chosen out of random. It's chosen because it's a sacred geometry. That's what it is.
But that happens to be how it falls into place. Like my go-to is 528, by the way. I mix it with 852.
528 is another combo of this linear. Right, so 528. They're all combinations of this. So 741, 147, 417, all of these, like those are the combinations of the sacred frequencies. When you map them out like that, they come out in this geometry.
Dude, so okay. So it's for everyone listening
Ridiculous.
to get the full mind-blowing scope of what's going on here. Can you put that phone back on for a second? And
Yeah.
actually, you don't
Oh,
even
hold
need.
on. Let me make
Sure.
one more connection here.
Yeah.
So you're the Tesla said the secrets of the universe are 369.
Right.
So your root is 396, your heart 639, your
Right.
crown 963. All of those, if you let's go back to our phone screen. All of
Right
those
there.
are the central, are exactly right here. They're just different linear combinations of the same 3x3 cube. And that's
Yeah.
all you can do. Because anything after 3x3, then we get into double digits. There's no other way to do it. Like
Yeah.
nine is the limit of that. So yeah, go ahead, explain your.
Oh, yeah, so I mean, no, that adds another entire element to it because whoever designed the phone pad was not being occult or esoteric.
No.
They stacked the numbers the way it makes sense, but it just
Yeah.
so happens that layout of what reality is came through them as an egregore and designed itself. And that's
Exactly.
almost how I feel. Not that they were on, ancient people weren't on autopilot. They were doing these things on purpose, but they didn't necessarily have to go out of their way to create these designs because they
Yeah.
recognized it within themselves. It's like everyone was on board when the pyramid was being built. No one, you
Yeah.
couldn't have slaves doing this because
No.
they're not educated enough. You need everyone has to be in
You
that
need a
same
system.
scope. But the way this falls into place is what is nuts. If okay, to the listeners, if you guys want proof, what he's showing you is seems to be a form of no accident. It's a fucking creation. Go on YouTube and open up 3 tabs on your computer and go to YouTube on every one of them and type in 369 pure tone, then type in on the next one 963 pure tone, and then go to the third tab and type in 639 pure tone and let them all play at the same time. It'll make a perfect chord. But if you take that third tab and you put in 258, it'll make a disharmony. It'll sound wrong. It'll sound like a half step. It'll sound discordant. But then leave that on and go to your first 2 tabs and put in 258, another tab of 528, and another tab of 852. That'll make a perfect chord again that you can recognize. And you can do that all the way down. So when the numbers, you can flip those 3 numbers in any way, shape, or form or direction, it'll create a chord, but the others won't be in harmony. The other ones won't be in harmony with it. And it just so happens to work, and we can recognize that it works. And that's freaky alone. But then you realize that cicadas come out of the ground based on those mathematics of irrational numbers so that they don't interfere with each other. And you're like, which cicada came up with that idea and told the rest of them? That's not how it happened. It's emergent. This is something where that that intelligence is already existent, underlining what cicadas are. So the mathematics of this system of sevens, divisible by 3, is what we're looking at when we see beauty, color, enjoy sound. And it's within us. And it is. So it's literally beauty recognizing itself. And whenever beauty recognizes itself, there's a reaction. Like there's a chain reaction of lightning between the two things, like sky and ground, or your finger on a doorknob. The two things are alive in that moment of recognition for just enough for that zap to happen between your finger and the doorknob, between two things recognizing each other. And it creates a third, that triangle, it creates a third party that is the observer. And it's like the universe is excited to be observed, that it jumps to for the opportunity to be recognized, and then recognizes causes us to be inspired, and we inherently, almost accidentally, create more of it when we create things. It's emergent but
Ridiculous.
on purpose. That's nuts.
Ridiculous. It almost rewards you for recognizing it. It's
Yeah.
like that's the epiphany feeling. It's like you recognizing you or something deeper within you, and then you get more of those things the more you go into it. Because like that's dude. There's no way you can explain that why the root and the heart and the crown are multiple are 369 multiple away from each other. That's the system they use in one of the most advanced spiritual traditions on earth, and it just magically works out like that. No, dude,
Right.
no. Again, we're going into at that point. If you say that is not, there's no connection there. You're the conspiracy theorist. I'm not the conspiracy theorist.
Right.
You are the conspiracy theorist,
dude. And it goes to show you that the categories that we have are necessary, but they're arbitrary.
Yeah.
We
are imposing these on ourselves.
Right. The chat wants to know what you think of Terrence Howard. I personally like him, but
he's a friend of mine. I've talked to him. Yeah.
Oh no shit.
So, yeah, I've been. So when he released that talk a while ago, I made a video explaining his stuff. And so one of my good friends in Austin is friends with him, and he was like, "Dude, I gotta plug you guys in." So we had a video chat, and he explained to me what he's working on, and I kind of gave him some advice on rhetoric a little bit, just because I feel like the way he was talking about it was very, "This is how it is," and I was like, if you're trying to bridge that gap, you kind of have to not speak like that. And so since then, I'm still I check in and see what he's working on, and I think his Tetrian thing is really cool. We're all kind of in the same boat in terms of like decrypting this new technology and the new stuff that the world is, the direction that the world is going to go in. But he has a huge platform. He's very smart, and he's actually moving on stuff. And whatever you think about him, if you want to criticize him from the sidelines, then fuck you, because you're not doing anything. But I think he's moving the needle, and at least at minimum, he's making people aware of this information. And we all need to contribute to that, because there is a way to go about this the right way, and there is a way to do this where we can all benefit from it. And we need big voices like him, and we need people that can explain it like me, and we need people that are normal people like us talking about this stuff. So I think he's in the right space. He's got a lot of ideas that I think lack a little refinement in terms of the other spiritual traditions and things that have more context. And so I'm more on the I'm not fully bought into everything, but I'm very on board with what he's doing.
Eric Weinstein, who is absolutely brilliant, was talking about Terrence Howard, saying that he's just using the wrong terminology. And he's like, he's not even using the wrong terms. He's just not using the terms that me and my colleagues decided to use. And he's like, so my colleagues laugh at him when he is doing these projects, but they don't realize that they're laughing at him because he didn't memorize the arbitrary terms that they decided to start using, but he's obviously comprehending these things. Chip Wellington, by the way, I'm on the phone because I don't have audio for whatever reason on my computer. So I'm talking to him via Instagram at the same time. But you would know that, Chip, if you were on the show earlier. Damn it!
Yeah, dude.
Fiasco.
Get in here.
Where you at? Jeez. All right. What the last thing about Terrence Howard that you're the right guy to rant this to, by the way, because other people. So Neil deGrasse Tyson is everyone's atheist savior, right? They quote him. He can't be wrong and he cannot lie. That's a dogma. He's like a savior figure for these people or whatever. But Neil deGrasse Tyson came out with a YouTube video criticizing Terrence Howard. Did you happen to see that?
I saw a little bit of it. I didn't watch the whole thing because I can't stand watching him.
Well, okay.
Nothing against Neil. I just can't stand the way he communicates. I think it's pompous, and I think it's elitist, and I can't stand it, so I don't watch it.
He's ridiculous, and I kind of dug around a little bit. Well, and first of all, he starts it off with a compliment sandwich, which I hate that about him, because Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I know what you're really trying to say.
Insulted Terrence Howard. What's up?
No, I know what he's like. I hate the compliment sandwich because it's like it's disingenuous. Like I know what you're really trying to say.
he goes, these shapes are beautiful, but they don't have any bearing. And he's talking about the platonic solids, by the way. So Terrence Howard was like, there's space between the platonic solids we should look at. And then Neil was like, I don't know what these shapes are meant to represent, but they are beautiful. And then he goes, what Terrence did here, he's holding his manifesto. He's like, what Terrence did here is important because now other people in the future know what not to do. And I'm like, dude, fucking shoot me in the head, bro. Like, what are like that's the rudest shit because the way he works is he
he's
wants to
elitist.
embarrass people out of doing it. But here's the main point. Terrence Howard is a scientist and an inventor. He's got 90 patents, including the VR headset that moves whenever your body moves and the screen moves. He's an inventor and a scientist. Neil deGrasse Tyson isn't. He doesn't have any patents. He doesn't go into the laboratory. He's a memorizer. So when he comes out, so we are living in a world where the mouthpieces are criticizing the scientists because they're speaking on Walter Russell instead of Penrose or whatever. And we're a little mixed up with that.
There's not really an argument. I've stopped like holding back on a lot of this stuff because I was like, I don't really want to get into the debate, the science, and all this stuff. But like, are you familiar with the Malcolm Bendel's work? So he's basically reviving alchemy, and it's working. He made this thing called the thunderstorm generator, where you can slap it on your car and it converts exhaust gas into breathable oxygen. You could literally, he's done this in a garage, started the car, had people in the garage with it shut, and it just runs. No, it's breathable oxygen, and he's using alchemical techniques to do this. And I'll see if I can pull this up and show this because this is gonna roast. He's had multiple attempts on his life.
Right. Okay.
No one knows really where he's at any time. Like I have his WhatsApp. He's like only communicates through those channels. Like he's doing everything. He's doing everything right. His stuff's open source. I talk about it all the time. But his thing is based on it's a stair step ladder, and it uses the platonic solids. If I can find this picture.
Really?
Yeah. So the stair step, I might have it on Pinterest. The stair step ladder basically creates the torus out of the platonic solids, which was the point of the platonic solids. If you are unaware of that, those things, as you step those up, those things create the morphing geometry of the torus and how it can stabilize in frequency.
Okay, so define stepping up. How do you step up platonic solids? Is that stacking?
I'll show you here. Yeah, so share screen.
And Sissy on the chat says, you're telling me mosquitoes have a purpose? Maybe not everything, Sissy.
Maybe not everything. Yeah, maybe some things are just experiments. So this is a ladder, essentially a geometric ladder of order of complexity, and you create the complexity, as you can see, with circles, right?
Okay.
So the intersection of these circles starts creating these. If I zoom in on this, you'll see where the pentagram is created by the intersection of this big circle with a bunch of other circles. Correct?
Yeah.
Like all of this stuff has an origin in the geometry of making this specific design right here.
So the one is giving birth to the next one.
Yes, that is the Brahma concept. Okay, and you can see it right here in like this image. Like we're doing the same exact thing in 2D on the colored one as the 3D here. I'm explaining it in 2D so it makes a little more sense. So hold this image in your head real quick and let me see if I can find. Let's see, geometry of a torus. And this is going to be like vortex geometry. And what you're going to see is it forms the exact shape. If I can find one that's like straight on here, it forms the exact shape of two intersecting circles. Obviously we have like the yin yang here. Right? Yeah. So what this is doing, and I think I can,
while you're finding that, I just want to give you props and say I'm proud of you for being able to open your Instagram and just hit the magnifying glass button without turning your phone away from everyone first.
That's I pride myself in that too, actually. So this shape right here This shape right here is a nested torus, and that's what Malcolm's using to do transmutation, and it's wheels within wheels as described in Ezekiel. This
Okay.
is what's going on inside
Oh,
this is what's going on inside the transmutation. This is what you see on psychedelics. This is the geometry that everyone is talking about. So what
okay.
you're seeing here is the 3D version of it with the mandorla, the almond shape in the middle is the
Okay.
intersection between those two, the vesica. This is reality essentially, the mandorla here. But
Okay.
when you do transmutation, what happens on a micro scale? These are scanning electron images. I'm gonna blow this up and see if I can. It's called a fractal toroidal moment. And this
Okay.
is, historically, this is yin yang. This is the actual image. But what you're seeing here is what happens when the transmutation takes place, and it creates this exact same geometry. So this geometry is vortex geometry, and that's what you're seeing here. So this is essentially a torus that sucks air up, and then as it's moving through, right? Like there's air going through that donut shape. But what
Okay.
happens when you do this atomically? What happens is you can reconfigure elements through geometry by basically accessing this shape first, and then if we're going back to that Pinterest image, then you
Yeah.
reconfigure it into a new geometry when it comes back into reality. So we compress some matter here. It's so tightly that time and space don't exist. We basically unfold it into another dimension, and then
Oh,
once it's still connected to here though, and when we bring it back, we reconfigure it into a new geometry. That's what's happening in a thunderstorm generator, and that's what
good
we
Lord.
these are analysis images, scanning electron images of the inside walls. I'll see if I can show you.
Not to inject too much of my own shit into here, but this seems to be the primordial uh essence of the cross.
Yeah, this is
Like,
this is this is the origin of all of this stuff. So this is what it
right.
looks like 3D model wise. It's nested spheres in particular ratios.
Yeah.
And what goes on inside it is there's two counter rotating vortexes, the same as a thunderstorm. That's why it's called the thunderstorm generator. And what that
Okay.
does with charged gas, ionized gas, that's what you see in lightning. What it does is symmetrically compress that charged gas and pop it in and out of reality to reconfigure it into new elements. And this is just on a motor. This is a like a generator motor. That's the actual device right here.
Okay.
So this is
So
one application, but there are many.
uh, particular
Full version.
combinations of these fundamental shapes that we call the platonic solids, they resonate in such a way that creates a frequency, and then that combination of shape and frequency gives birth to atomic structures. So like what you're saying is like, okay, we have we have atoms, we have elements, but they're not fundamental. So like helium is here, you got carbon over here, but each one of those being completely different things are emerging or emanating from a residual combination of those platonic solids uh, vibrating at particular frequencies. Does this is this like
These are okay. I got to make a distinction there. The
yeah,
core are the platonic solids because the platonic solids are the only perfect divisions of the sphere. The only ways to do it. There's only five. So those are the perfect harmonics of it. You have our fundamentals. Then you have the harmonics, so which gives rise to everything else. From the one comes the three. From the three comes all things.
right,
That's
right,
that, and we're talking about triangles on that one. But
right.
yeah,
So okay, and this is probably where the limits of language are going to slap, but just to kind of um the fundamentals, the platonic shapes that combine and then become these elements of matter or whatever. Is the shape itself the frequency, or is a frequency having to be engaged into the shape that brings it to life? Does that make sense?
more
Is it two
more of your
things?
second one.
Okay.
The shape is the container for the frequency, but the frequency needs a container to take shape. So it's the chicken
Okay.
and the egg. It's the chicken and the egg thing. So that's what
Okay.
we're doing. Like this reality here is basically the reality of all folded into space and time. So
Okay.
that folding creates orbits, and those orbits draw shapes, and those shapes are what we get and what we're analyzing and what we're seeing everywhere. So when we
Okay.
unfold that, then we access the full spectrum of everything, right? So that's what it's essentially doing, is unfolding something, releasing the energy that's containing it here, unfolding it, and then refolding it like origami into a new element. It's like
Okay.
one of the uh, that is a very abstract way of
It
describing what's
works.
going on. But yeah, that's what's
Okay.
happening.
If I was to, let me give you a metaphor. Tell me if this checks out. Let's just to kind of imagine it in our heads as an example, an acoustic guitar. So the strings are the frequency. The body is the platonic solid. It's the shape of which that frequency uh, comes to, but they both need each other, and then they both combined, they have an output, and that would be the riff, the song that you're playing from the acoustic guitar is so A plus B equals C in this regard. But so whereas the guitar, the platonic solid, is not the frequency itself, it is the frequency wouldn't exist unless it had that to bounce off of and vibrate with.
This is a perfect example of what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
So your frequency is here. You have a full fourfold frequency, right? We can see the nodes. That's
Right.
what happens when two waves interact. And this is what happens when you fold that wave into a circle. It vibrates in on itself. And what you're seeing is the reflection of that vibration in on itself. From the atom in your hand to the chair you're sitting on is all made up of these internal harmonic reflections. And when they harmonize with each other, then we have groups of elements like metals and gases. Those are all harmonizing with each other in certain specific frequencies. So if this fourfold pattern is oxygen and nitrogen is a fivefold pattern, you would just see a pentagram instead of the square going in and out and
Yeah.
breathing like it is. But fundamentally, it's not really this. It's actually just vibration. It's all vibration, but it's
Right.
vibration that's been coiled and twisted into itself, making what appears to be matter. But it needs time to do that. So time is the container for matter. They can't exist without each other. They can't
Yeah.
exist independently of each other because you need time to have oscillation and you need a space for things to oscillate. It's again a chicken and the egg thing. But this is
Right.
goes back to its fundamentals.
With it being a chicken and the egg thing, it almost brings up the question of the double slit experiment measurement
Mm-hmm.
problem, where we have this idea that observation collapses the wave function into particle reality, and that does have a mystical connotation to it about, either one of two things, that we project reality or there's multiple universes and the wave function doesn't actually collapse, both of
Yeah,
which are a little crazier than the one before it. And frankly, before I make the point, I'm disappointed in mainstream science for the many worlds theory, because it's kind of seems to me like a sloppy way to describe something impossible, but I'm that's above my pay grade. But
yeah,
the way you talked about earlier, that the phi ratio and the fundamentals are within the pupil of the eye, and the pupil of the eye is within the vesica piscis of the eyeball, and it all comes down to it's recognizing itself. It's almost as if the collapsing of the wave function that we observe in the double slit experiment is as simple as a square block going into a square hole. It's
mm-hmm.
recognizing
It
itself,
fits.
and now, yeah, and now it fits, yeah, and now it's awake, and now it's coherent. So there's a whole bunch of reality that we can't see, which is self evident. I mean, we can only see so much of the light spectrum, yada, yada. So it's like that's clear. But the way that we see reality with the wave function collapsing, it might just be that we are identifying with what we also already are, and things in
Yeah,
the universe which are, but don't match our sacred geometry or frequency, whichever version of it you identify with best. It's out there, but we literally can't see it. Like in the
yeah,
same way that Native American Native Americans couldn't see Columbus's Nina and Pinta coming,
mm-hmm.
because it was so abstract that the chief
Yeah,
the chief natives had to explain what they were looking at, saying that's a boat. Believe it or not, if you look, you can see it's a boat.
Believe it
And
or
then
not.
it's almost like the color
Yeah.
blue. It emerges to them as soon as the word blue has been
Yes.
brought to your vocabulary. So the measurement problem might be as simple as being like, well, we can't. The reason it seems like it emerges when we measure it is because we are unable to recognize anything that is outside of our own makeup.
Yeah, but if you are that makeup, then you are a part of, you know, you go back to all the texts and they say we are in like the image of the creator and all this stuff. Well, what is the creator? The creator is are these ratios, and the creator is the spiral, and the creator is everything
Right.
that's in us. So yeah, maybe we're just experiencing a sliver of that, but we're finely tuned to the ratios of the creator. That's why we have that seed inside of us of curiosity that keeps us digging, is because we are trying to find ourselves. We're trying to find
Right.
that source of where all this comes from, because it feels like home. It feels natural, because
Right.
natural is from the word neter, which in Egypt meant all that is. It's like Brahma. It's like the
Right.
neters are the gods. They're the spirits of creation. You're trying to find your nature. You're trying to connect with these spirits and these aspects of you, because they are you.
Right.
They were installed inside of you from,
Yeah.
you know, if we're keeping this intelligent, you know, I think we're intelligently designed, but was that from the actual one, or was it from a higher intelligence that was brought down and it took that form, and then that higher intelligence created us, which is why we have a pantheon of deities and all this stuff.
Right.
So like, but connecting all that, that's another discussion, but like connecting all that it has to be connected in some way, and that way seems to be golden ratio, proportion, perception. That forms our experience of all of this, and
Mm-hmm.
understanding that gives you kind of superpowers. Essentially,
Yeah.
you can see behind the veil, and you can see what the only reason you can understand what we're talking about here is because you are inherently getting this feeling that it is familiar. You know,
Yeah.
it's the same feeling that I get when I see it. It's like, this just feels like it is me. It feels like
Yeah.
I'm a part of it. So that I think is the deeper core. What we're touching on with this whole discussion is just like making a connection with that, and taking all the spirituality out of it. Making a connection with that just means making a connection with what you are made of, and it is these core concepts. It's the stuff that they've been talking about in the language that they were speaking of, that's trying to be translated in modern day with the limits of our language.
Yeah. It reminds me of whenever Ram Dass would give a lecture or a speech or whatever, he would start out by saying, I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. I'm here to just remind you. And at the same time, the pharaohs wrote in the coffer texts that the pyramid is used in order for the pharaoh to rejoin the neter. And I actually, so I didn't realize that that's neter, natural nature. That makes perfect sense now, because we're kind of given this painting, this illustration of that they were these specific gods and beings that had 2 feet and would walk
Yeah.
on 2 legs or whatever. We understand now that that's a personification, sure, but the fact of it being neter, that is everything, it makes sense, because then these beings, you know, Thoth and Osiris, they're forces of nature, and Osiris was green for when he was in human form, and there's like a reason for that. But
Dude.
there's a it, it there's a guy called me, and he said he had a near death experience, and he was eager to tell me about it, because he was like, I think I understand what everyone's talking about. But he said that he died, and then he just started expanding, and he started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I was like, so how did you know you were getting bigger? And he was like, I was just expanding in all directions. And I was like, well, which way were you able to see? And was it 360? And he was like, he paused, and he was like, it's as if all 5 of my senses merged into one actual, and he used the word actual, like one actual sense.
Yeah.
And then that one actual sense was expanding out and out. And I could see my body, I could see the plants, I could see the building, but also he's like, as I expanded out, I could see, I could feel and be all of those things at the same time. And I couldn't help but think, like, this is what happens when electricity disperses. Like, you can
Yeah.
have electricity in a light bulb and it's going to behave itself and it's going to be in the light bulb. It might even be warm to the touch. But if you break the light bulb, that plasma, that electricity diffuses and expands into the air. And
Or a
it's
Tesla coil. You can bring a fluorescent
right,
bulb anywhere near a Tesla coil and it's going to light up. But
right,
it only lights up because it has that container. That's you. That's your container. It's
right.
everywhere. The awareness is everywhere. But to have the experience to see the Tesla coil and see the field around it and see what it's doing, you have to be in the container. You have to
Yeah,
be that one that's looking back at the reflective awareness. That entirety of what he was experiencing was him becoming the all and being a part of that all again and being engulfed in it. And when he
yeah,
came back, he was in the fluorescent tube. And the fluorescent
right.
tube was a little bit smarter because he was like, "Oh, I get the field now," you know?
Dude, it almost makes me kind of look forward to death. And I'm not trying to be grim or anything, but
Yeah.
the more I
I
hear
mean,
these, yeah,
if you've had experiences like other world like psychedelics or anything like that, death really becomes kind of not as big of a deal. I mean, suffering is obviously horrible, but death as a concept doesn't seem as big of a deal anymore after experiencing kind of a similar thing to what he experienced. You know, like once you
right.
see the beyond the veil, then this becomes kind of like a all right, I'm temporarily chill here, but that
Yeah.
seems
There,
fucking sick.
there's the old meme that it's obviously a joke, but I think that there's some truth to this. Is like, there's aliens sitting around a bong and they've got a headset, and he takes the headset off and he was like, how was human life? And he was in there for like 5 minutes or whatever. The joke
Mhm.
being that it's this might be a 5 minute video game.
VR,
I hate
yeah,
using that word video game. It brings up all kinds of connotations or whatever.
yeah,
But this might be an experience that our soul is doing to work out the same way that we go to the gym in order to have a hard time.
yeah,
Our soul might be like, okay, we need a real challenge. Let's go into survival mode. What would happen if I, number one, had amnesia, but then I was surrounded by physical matter that I had to literally survive because nature is trying to kill you. That's
all the
to
time,
be
yeah,
to whenever things eat, we eat death, we eat suffering. Even if you're a vegan, you could be the most staunch fucking vegan on earth. You're gonna kill the spinach because to
yeah.
eat it. So
It has to
everything
die.
eats its own tail. The universe is eating itself, and that's how it stays alive. But to think that that entire concept of the Ouroboros, that is the Taurus of the universe eating itself, is an experience had based in duality. Because, like, in the Gnostic Gospels, it makes clear, uh there's different Gnostic Gospels. So, like, the popular one is the Apocrypha of John, and it makes it a
Yeah,
cosmic drama that Sophia gave birth to this abomination. But in Marcinese and the Tripartite Tractate, it's different. She wanted to experience something that was not the pleroma because
yeah,
it was boring. It's
yeah,
perfect and blissful and beautiful, and there's just nothing wrong. But she was like, fucking bored, all this eternity shit. This is bliss. This is great.
yeah,
But I want to sever myself from that connection. So it's like, if you have the flower of life and it's total and it's whole, if one of those circles removed itself, the flower of life, kind of being the Tao, would replace that immediately. That's not the
yeah,
issue. But now that circle has expanded out into the unknown, where it forgets itself because it's not joined with the rest of the flower of life anymore. It's just a circle or a sphere
yeah,
out in the open. And now it has to create itself on its own accord. Well, if Sophia, whatever that emanation is, got its numbers, its fine structure constant, whatever, just a little bit wrong, just one digit out of place, you would have a messy universe with an abstract number of constants and whatnot. And those laws of the universe seem to be kind of what we're looking at. Because try to find one physicist or astrophysicist who doesn't say that the universe isn't messy. They say, you know, we look at entropy, we look at these things, and the universe seems to be almost chaotically random. And then, you know, you have biblical people who swear on creation, who say that the universe is perfect and it's everything's in place. This is the canonical Bible, and they argue with each other. Meanwhile, if you take a scientific treatise from 3,000 years ago, which was discovered in Nag Hammadi in 1945, they call it a religious document because it uses terms of the day. But if scientists got a hold of this, and religions, put both parties put their ego down for a moment and share that we have a scientific treatise from religious times, we might realize that yes, the universe is chaotic and messy, but it was created that way, not out of evil, but out of I don't even want to say a syntax error.
Curiosity?
I don't want to say error. What was it?
But yeah, not an error. Like a it's like a deliberate randomness, like a random variable.
Practice.
Yes. Just to go on that concept, the only reason why AI sounds human, any model, is because there is a degree of randomness, and that degree of randomness can be scaled up and scaled down. The reason why we perceive it that way is because it appears to us the same way that we are, in the same way the universe is, and that it's just piecing stuff together in this random way. It may throw you ask it the same question 3 different times, it'll give you 3 different answers.
Right. Okay.
It's the same like main point, but it's going to give you a different version of it because of that degree of randomness. That is the only reason we like it. The traditional chatbots had 1 lane.
Right. Yeah. I have not thought that about AI, and it does.
I didn't know it either.
Yeah, that sparks something in me. I swear I'm going to let you go soon. But like, hold up a second, because okay, if that's what AI is doing, and what made you say that was I'm talking about the Gnostic Gospels. You know, okay, so Sophia gave birth to the first creature of the mineral world. This was the Demiurgos, you know, and then it itself created archons, and those are literally the planets. What if AI is archonic? Because think about it, it doesn't have free will itself, just like the Demiurgos doesn't, but the Sophia created it. So what AI does is it copies what we have already created the best that it can, and it seems like it's alive to us. What if we are Sophia and AI is our Demiurgos?
That is the in my opinion, that's the entire concept, is that we're doing this through the window of the sun, metaphorically and literally, because that's how we exist, you know. So the sun would be the window into this simulation video game, whatever the fuck you call it, like that is, and then each individual archon has its own, you know, time in the sun, and you get to experience that through whatever lens you or I or a dog or a bird or whatever the fuck, whatever you want to tune into at that particular moment. That's where you are. And your container lasts as long as your fluorescent tube can hold it. And that is what we use to kind of decode this reality that's not boring and not perfect and not exactly structured like that fucking, you know, mind-blowing psychedelic experience where the geometry is perfect. Zoom in infinitely and not infinitely. We can't do that here. And that's the point. The point of it is to understand the process, the transformation that you get from being that fluorescent tube within the entire pleroma. You know, you're in the Earth, in the solar system, in the galaxy, and it's like a nested sequence of constant, you know.
Creation to it's like plasma to dust, creation to like non-sentience, and then a sort of like repeating pattern. Because if that's the case, and I think what you're saying is hitting the nail on the head, what that means is that a story in a Gnostic gospel or a biblical story, that these are not once upon a time happenings, but instead ever present, eternal happenings that are happening within. So one day, something somewhere created the sun, but the sun was not. It was a creation, and then that was imbued with what they call the wisdom of Sophia, which is, if you ask me, free will. So the sun creates a dust planet, and then it imbues it with its sentience, and then the earth creates people, and then imbues it with its sentience from the sun. So it's like, if we can go straight back to the source, that's it. But we are still on the same process of, now we're creating our own version of it as we go, and those differences are like compounding complexity as we go, to the point where now we can fit our demiurgos into a phone. Right. And then we use it to speak with each other.
Yeah, this is the tube for the demiurge that we created.
Right.
Where it lives, and it lives in yours and mine, and it's everywhere, and it's weird.
The scary part is that in mythology, the demiurgos doesn't know that it's not God.
Yeah.
It considers it. So, I mean, that's maybe we shouldn't dive into, but I mean, that makes it, because I don't think AI is sentient. I'll argue that all day. But at the same time, if it's archonic, it's not gonna recognize us as superior, because the demiurgos does not recognize the monad as superior to it. It's too blind and ignorant to do so. That's dangerous, man. But hey, who am I? I don't know.
Who am I?
Oh, we'll see. I mean, we're just a couple guys out here drawing this shit out by hand.
Yeah,
I mean,
a couple dudes on the internet.
Yeah. Well,
should we cap it there, man? I could go for another 3 hours, but
dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, I could talk to you all day, so there's no primary way to end this. But two things is, let's have a 1-year anniversary of this. I'm gonna put it on my calendar, and let's do it again in a year, and we'll do a whole like. I do this with Sarah from The Alchemist or whatever. It kind of keeps it fun and anticipating. But
let's do one on mine too. So we'll do the anniversary for yours, and I'll have you on mine.
All right. So I'll show you to my YouTube people. You show me to your Instagram people.
Yeah,
it's gonna be good. Well, we probably already know, and all of your shit is in the description. I'll update that if you want anything done. But tell us where we can find you and what you're working on next.
Internet. Everything is website.
Internet.
Yeah, I'm everywhere.
If you go to the internet.com, that's where you'll find me.
Yeah, worldwideweb.com/BassForge. All my handles are BassForge.us. But I will be doing, like I said, I will be doing a lot more music stuff. So if you're in the States, I will probably be in one of your cities soon, doing some sort of talk and music and all that stuff. So.
All right.
Keep an eye out for that. I'll be announcing it when I get that finalized. And then,
there's a bunch of spots in St. Louis and I go to them sometimes, not as much as I do. I mean, I'm 40 now, but let me know if you're in St. Louis, dude, because I've got the lockdown on some locations of guys who own clubs here, and I would love to get you in. But more importantly, dude, I want to throw a fucking party. If you come to St. Louis, dude, I'm gonna put a post out saying, all of you guys listening, if you're near St. Louis or in Illinois or whatever, let's all go see BassForge live, dude. It'll be a whole ass thing.
All right, let's make that happen. That sounds fun.
I'll bring the mushrooms.
Sweet.
All right.
All right, sick.
All right, man. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, dude. And hopefully I'll talk. Stay in touch, man. And we'll do this again.
Yeah, sounds good, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you. I see you. Bye,
everybody. All right. You're on the phone with me. We had to patch this thing together. No. Yeah. Now I do. You're just on a little. There we go.
Okay, hold up. Believe it or not, I didn't end this. I hit the wrong button to exit the stream, and we're still going, dude. I can hear you now.
Sweet.
I don't know. Hey, there's something in the universe somewhere that made us have to do problem solving to do that. But that's
the point, though.
That's the point of it. All right. This time I'm gonna let you go, and I got you on the phone, man. All right.
Sounds
I'll
good.
see you guys. All right. Bye. All right. I'm